Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor for me, Dinda Wahyu, Business Development Associate Indonesia Re, to host you today. On behalf of Indonesia Re, allow me to convey our sincere gratitude to those who attend today's webinar, Indonesia Re 2023, Treaty Renewal, Postmortem, and What's Next. Selamat pagi Bapak dan Ibu, direksi, kepala divisi maupun manajer yang mewakili dari seluruh perusahaan asuransi umum Indonesia. Pada kesempatan ini, saya akan memandu acara dengan dua bahasa. Serta perkenankan kami mengucapkan terima kasih atas kerjasama bisnis yang terjalin baik antara perusahaan Bapak dan Ibu dengan Indonesia Re. Semoga kerjasama yang terjalin dapat terus ditingkatkan dengan Indonesia Re sebagai solusi dan mitra reasuransi bagi perusahaan Bapak dan Ibu. Before we begin, I would like to extend our warmest welcome. Sebelum acara kami mulai, izinkan kami menyapa kepada yang terhormat Bapak Benny Waworuntu, Direktur Utama Indonesia Re.
Selamat pagi.
Selamat pagi, Pak. Yang kami hormati Bapak Delil Khairat, Direktur Teknik Operasi Indonesia Re. Selamat pagi, Pak Delil.
Pagi, Dinda. Good morning, everyone.
Selamat pagi. Pagi semua.
And to our honorable speakers, Bapak Widyo Primastowo, Kepala Divisi Client Market and Treaty Indonesia Re. Selamat pagi, Pak Widyo.
Selamat pagi, Dinda. Selamat pagi. Morning.
Selamat pagi.
Ibu Surbhi Goel, Managing Director and Head of Property and Casualty Southeast Asia Munich Re. Good morning, Ibu Surbhi.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And also Ibu Aisyah Fuad, Senior Client Manager, Team Lead for Property and Casualty Client Markets Indonesia and India Sub Swiss Re. Good morning, Ibu Aisyah.
Good morning, selamat pagi semua.
Selamat pagi, Bapak dan Ibu. Sebelum acara kita mulai, marilah kita menyanyikan lagu kebangsaan Indonesia Raya. Untuk membuka acara pada pagi hari ini, kami mengundang Bapak Benny Waworuntu selaku Direktur Utama Indonesia Re untuk dapat menyampaikan welcoming speech. Kepada Bapak Benny, dipersilahkan.
Baik, selamat pagi. Terima kasih, Dinda. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Yang terhormat Bapak Ibu yang ada dalam webinar pagi hari ini, mungkin ada perwakilan dari Otoritas Jasa Keuangan, asosiasi, kemudian juga terutama Bapak dan Ibu Direksi dan perusahaan perasuransian di Indonesia, baik asuransi umum, asuransi jiwa, mungkin reasuransi. Kemudian our dear colleagues from Swiss Re and Munich Re, thank you very much to participate in this event. Selamat pagi semua Bapak dan Ibu. Jadi event ini sebetulnya kami buat adalah untuk memberikan informasi mengenai apa yang terjadi di industri reasuransi khususnya, baik di lokal maupun secara global. Terlebih kita baru saja mengakhiri proses perpanjangan treaty kita di 1 Januari kemarin, dan kita juga akan berbagi pengalaman bagaimana proses tersebut, kemudian apa pandangan kami di Indonesia Re, kemudian kita juga akan minta rekan-rekan dari pemain global, khususnya dalam hal ini adalah Swiss Re dan Munich Re, bagaimana experience mereka di global dan bagaimana juga pandangan mereka terhadap industri perasuransian ke depannya. Seperti kita ketahui bersama Bapak dan Ibu bahwa industri reasuransi sudah mengalami hardening, ya, pengerasan atau penguatan sudah sejak sekitar 4 tahun yang lalu secara internasional. Namun demikian nampaknya industri reasuransi di Indonesia tidak merespon secara proper, ya. Bagaimanapun juga COVID telah membawa perubahan yang cukup besar, ya, di dalam industri perasuransian di kita, menjadi trigger untuk kita bisa melakukan perubahan. Demikian juga beberapa big losses, ya, yang terjadi dalam beberapa tahun terakhir, termasuk juga ada satu fenomena khususnya di asuransi kredit, ya, yang membuat kita harus betul-betul melihat kembali the way we are doing the business. Satu hal utama juga adalah bahwa di tahun 2025 kita sudah berkomitmen untuk menjalankan atau mengimplementasikan IFRS 17 atau PSAK 74. Ya, kita semua tentu percaya bahwa penerapan PSAK 74 ini akan menjadi sebuah momentum, ya, yang sangat besar. Tidak hanya untuk merubah cara kita berbisnis, namun juga mengajak masyarakat untuk betul-betul melihat bagaimana sebuah perusahaan asuransi beroperasi. Di dalam PSAK 74 kita tahu bahwa akan ada perubahan signifikan terhadap mulai dari pengakuan, kemudian pencatatan, pencadangan, dan sebagainya. Nah, ini memaksa kita untuk merubah cara-cara bisnis kita, dan yang paling penting adalah cara bisnis yang selama ini mungkin kita jalankan berdasarkan relation, ya, itu harus kita rubah menjadi knowledge. Jadi we have to change the way we are doing the business from the relationship based into the knowledge based business. Gitu ya. Ini betul-betul suatu perubahan yang besar, dan untuk bisa melakukan itu data, riset, dan teknologi memegang peranan penting. Data dan riset merupakan modal untuk kita bisa melakukan bisnis secara knowledge based, dan digital akan mempercepat proses tersebut, gitu ya. Nah, untuk dapat melakukan itu juga kita harus bekerja sama. Kami percaya bahwa dengan kerjasama di antara industri reasuransi dan asuransi, ya, kita akan membawa industri perasuransian ini lebih baik lagi ke depannya, dan terutama adalah menjaga sustainability dari industri perasuransian dalam kita memprovide produk dan service pada masyarakat Indonesia. Indonesia Re berkomitmen untuk terus memberikan support kepada industri perasuransian di Indonesia, tentu dengan perubahan-perubahan yang kita sudah lakukan, terutama di dalam kita memberikan pertanggungan ulang, ya, seperti contohnya Bapak dan Ibu sudah melihat bagaimana kami memperpanjang treaty kita di tahun kemarin, dan kita akan terus melakukan perubahan-perubahan untuk melakukan perbaikan tentunya. Dan kemudian juga yang tidak kalah penting adalah kita akan terus juga mengedukasi diri kita dan termasuk kita semua di pasar perasuransi Indonesia dengan melakukan event-event seperti ini. Saya kira itu yang bisa saya sampaikan. Mudah-mudahan event ini bisa bermanfaat buat kita semua. Dan akhir kata saya sampaikan wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Bapak Benny. Bapak dan Ibu, before we begin the main agenda, please allow us to capture this moment. To Bapak Benny Waworuntu, Bapak Dalil Khairat, Bapak Widyo Primastowo, Ibu Surbhi Goel, Ibu Aisyah Fuad, and also to other participants of this webinar, please kindly activate your camera. Bapak dan Ibu, izinkan kami mengabadikan momen ini terlebih dahulu. Dibantu oleh rekan-rekan dari Indonesia Re, akan kami pandu sesi foto yang terbagi ke dalam 4 halaman. Baik. Untuk sesi foto akan kita mulai sesaat lagi, Bapak dan Ibu. Sedang kami persiapkan untuk penataan lengkap. Baik, di layar kami sepertinya terbagi 6 halaman Zoom, Bapak dan Ibu. Izinkan kami untuk mengabadikan 6 kali, Bapak Ibu ya. Kita mulai dari halaman yang pertama dalam hitungan saya. 3, 2, 1. Halaman kedua, 3, 2, 1. Halaman selanjutnya, 3, 2, 1. Halaman selanjutnya, 3, 2, 1. Halaman terakhir sepertinya 3, 2, 1. Baik, terima kasih Bapak dan Ibu atas kesediaannya untuk mengabadikan momen ini. Apabila tidak ada kendala pada koneksi, Bapak dan Ibu dapat tetap menyalakan kameranya. Distinguished audience, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to our main agenda, Indonesia Re 2023 Treaty Renewal Postmortem and What's Next. For this occasion, we are pleased to invite our moderator, Bapak Aryudo Mahardi Setianto, Client Management and Treaty Underwriting Department Head Indonesia Re. Bapak dan Ibu, sebelum kita beranjak kepada agenda utama pagi hari ini yang akan dipandu oleh Bapak Aryudo, izinkan saya membacakan CV singkat beliau. Menempuh pendidikan di Institut Teknologi Bandung pada tahun 2012 dengan program studi Business Management, dilanjutkan ke University of Leeds pada tahun 2015 dengan program pendidikan International Business. Beliau mengawali karir pada Telkom Indonesia di tahun 2013 sebagai Wholesale Service Market, kemudian bergabung kepada Indonesia Re pada tahun 2016 sebagai Manajemen Trainee. Pada tahun 2017 sebagai Domestic Treaty Underwriter, pada tahun 2021 menjadi Domestic Treaty Department Head, dan pada tahun 2022 hingga saat ini menduduki posisi sebagai Client Management and Treaty Underwriting Department Head. Untuk itu, kepada Bapak Aryudo, dipersilahkan.
Thank you very much, Ibu Dinda, for the short introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Aryudo Mardistianto, or you can call me Yudo, your moderator for today's webinar titled Indonesia Re 2023 Treaty Renewal, Postmortem, and What's Next. Please allow me to lead today's discussion with a mixture of both English and Indonesian language. That being said, we really expect active participation from the audience. Selamat pagi Bapak Ibu sekalian, direksi dan para senior manager dari perusahaan asuransi di Indonesia. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Perkenalkan, nama saya Aryudo Mardistianto atau biasa dipanggil Yudo yang akan menemani Bapak Ibu sebagai moderator pada webinar hari ini. Izinkan saya untuk memimpin sesi hari ini dengan menggunakan dua bahasa, Inggris dan Indonesia. Oleh karenanya kami sangat berharap partisipasi aktif dari Bapak dan Ibu sekalian pada sesi webinar pagi hari ini. So, this 2023 treaty renewal is definitely one of the toughest and one of the most challenging treaty renewal that I've ever been involved in. We in Indonesia Re applied strict renewal policies that mainly driven by the global insurance market hardening that actually has been there for several years, and also the urge to rectify and improve Indonesian insurance market. We focused on treaty balance, pricing, and also risk concentration and hidden accumulation. Therefore, a lot of changes were made in last treaty renewal with a big hope to create a sustainable treaty program. Kami di Indonesia Re menetapkan kebijakan renewal yang umumnya didasarkan pada market hardening yang telah terjadi selama beberapa tahun ini di global market, serta adanya kepentingan dan tanggung jawab kami untuk memperbaiki dan mengimprove market asuransi di Indonesia. Kami menaruh perhatian besar dan fokus pada balance treaty, pricing, serta risk concentration dan hidden accumulation. Sehingga cukup banyak perubahan yang kami terapkan dan cukup signifikan perubahan-perubahan tersebut pada renewal kemarin. Dengan harapan tentunya agar tercipta program-program treaty yang sustainable atau berkelanjutan. Indonesia's ultimate intention is in every business partnership has always been the same, which is to form a win-win partnership that can produce mutual benefit and promoting business sustainability for both cedents and the reinsurers. And the end point is, of course, the overall insurance industry improvement. Intensi Indonesia Re pada setiap bisnis partnership tidak pernah berubah dari dulu, yaitu untuk membentuk partnership yang win-win, saling menguntungkan dan dapat menciptakan mutual benefit yang mengedepankan business sustainability untuk kedua belah pihak. So before we get into the main session, before we get the presentation begin, please allow me to tell you how this webinar will run. So firstly, each speaker will present the material for about 45 minutes. And at the end of the session, after all three speakers have done their presentations, we will have a Q&A session for approximately 50 minutes. You can submit your question in a Google form link as delivered in the chat box while the presentation is ongoing later. Nevertheless, we also encourage you to open your mic and ask your questions directly to speakers in the Q&A session. Sebelum kita masuk ke sesi presentasi dari para speaker, izinkan saya untuk menjelaskan teknis bagaimana webinar ini akan berjalan. Setiap pembicara akan mempresentasikan materinya selama kurang lebih 45 menit. Setelah semua pembicara selesai mempresentasikan materinya, kita akan masuk ke sesi diskusi atau sesi tanya-jawab. Sesi diskusi dilakukan di akhir, namun Bapak Ibu sekalian dapat mensubmit pertanyaan pada link Google Form yang nanti akan disampaikan selama presentasi berlangsung. Tetapi selain link tersebut, Bapak dan Ibu sekalian juga dipersilahkan untuk menanyakan pertanyaannya secara langsung nanti di sesi tanya-jawab. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will now start the main session. Our first speaker will be Bapak Widyo Primastowo. He is the Client Market and Treaty Division Head. He joined Indonesia Re in October 2022. Prior to joining Indonesia Re, he led non-life technical team comprising facultative, treaty, and retrocession at another Indonesian reinsurer. And before that, had various managerial roles within technical functions in general insurance companies in Indonesia for over a decade. Pak Widyo holds a business management degree in addition to professional certification from AMAI, ANZIF, Insurance School of Japan, and also he was qualified Chief Risk Officer, as well as he was named as the winner of AAUI Young Manager Award in 2016. So without further ado, please welcome Pak Widyo to present about Indonesia Re Domestic Renewal Summary.
Hello, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Selamat pagi, Bapak dan Ibu semua. Good morning, our distinguished speakers, and of course, our board of directors. Selamat pagi. Good morning, Pak Aryudo, as the moderator. Is my voice sounds clearly?
Yes, Pak Widyo.
Okay, then let's proceed. I will bring the first session in both Bahasa Indonesia and English. So I apologize to our partner from Swiss Re and Munich Re. Actually, this is one of my advantage as a local player here. So I will bring this with bilingual. I will bring my session as Indonesia's non-life January 2023 treaty renewal. We will provide you with our view, what's on and what's next. So the prologue is reinsurance and insurance industry is an ecosystem. Reinsurers, as providers of reinsurance capacity, are suppliers to the insurers to provide covers to the society. Reinsurers, insurers or cedents, brokers, and the insured are forming the whole reinsurance market ecosystem. So if we'd like to, would like to make it the same as the other industry, all of the parties, reinsurers, insurers or cedents, the insured, the brokers, agents, etc., are important parts of this ecosystem. We are all playing our important roles, and all of these markets are just like supply chain in manufacturing industry. Jadi semua perusahaan reasuransi, cedents, tertanggung, broker dan juga agent memiliki peranan yang penting di dalam industri kita. Semuanya membentuk suatu ekosistem seperti halnya supply chain di dalam industri manufaktur. But our industry is kind of unique, and of course the supply chain is unique itself. Jadi karena uniknya industri kita, maka supply chain-nya juga sangat unik. Banyak pihak yang terlibat di sini. We can see in the pictures that all of these products, motor, home, family, business, transport, catastrophe, from the insured that they need to be covered, they will go to the insurer. And of course, the insurer will eventually go to the reinsurer. And the reinsurer will then finally cede to other reinsurers as retrocessionaire. Jadi kalau kita lihat di gambar yang sebelah kiri, produk-produk dan juga coverage asuransi ini yang di-cover oleh Bapak Ibu semua sebagai cedent, sebagai penanggung. Ini tentu diasuransikan kembali atau direasuransikan, dan kami sebagai penanggung atau penyedia kapasitas, selanjutnya tentu juga sebagai bagian dari manajemen risiko, kami sesikan kembali kepada yang namanya retrocessionaire. Nah, di dalam bisnis ini, in this business, there are 5 aspects, as we can see in the right pictures, is spreading of risk, providing capacity, catastrophe protection, capital release, and expertise. Jadi ekosistem ini, aspek-aspeknya adalah spreading of risk atau pembagian risiko. Jadi risiko ini dibagi ke dalam pihak-pihak yang terlibat di dalamnya, ke dalam penanggung dan juga penanggung ulang. The reinsurers providing capacity to the insurers, atau perusahaan reasuransi memberikan kapasitas kepada cedents sebagai penanggung, and also catastrophe protection, untuk salah satunya juga melindungi jika ada risiko katastrofik, as part of the capital release as well, juga sebagai bagian dari capital release, and also the sharing of expertise. Next slide is beyond borders. Local market is impacted by regional and global situations. Indonesian reinsurance market, as part and thus interconnected to, is impacted to what happens in regional and global markets. Hence, when there is global reinsurance hardening market, this will lead to such situation in Indonesia. So basically what happens in regional and global markets, Indonesian markets will follow those what happens in the external market, in global and regional markets. I quote here a published research from Bank of America. European reinsurers will miss their earnings targets in 2023 for the 6th year in a row, which is pressuring the industry to raise rates and continue improving the quality of their portfolios. Jadi apa yang terjadi di situasi market ini, industri kita itu juga beyond borders, atau tentu terimpact dengan apa yang terjadi di regional dan juga global market. Situasi yang ada di regional dan global market tentu akhirnya akan memiliki implikasi ke dalam market lokal kita. Published research dari Bank of America, mereka mencatat bahwa perusahaan reasuransi di Eropa tidak akan mencapai target pendapatan mereka di tahun 2022 untuk 6 tahun berturut-turut. Hal ini mendorong industri untuk menaikkan rate dan juga terus improve kualitas dari portofolio yang mereka miliki. Inilah yang akhirnya mendorong apa yang kita sebut saat ini hard market. So this leads to what we call now hard market. Hard market is just a cycle actually, but the cycle itself is unique because our industry is unique. Every industry is unique and that's our market is. Jadi hard market ini adalah fenomena di mana kalau gambar saya di bawah ini, itu hard market itu posisinya ada di sini. So this is hard market, where the cover had to place, prices rise sharply, profits and then the position is now in the peak of hard market. Nah, posisi ini terjadi ketika cover ini sangat susah dicari atau susah di place ke market. Lalu juga karena susah di place, tentu harga akan naik. Dan ini mendorong situasi yang ada di sini yang kita sebut sebagai hard market. Nah, hard market ini berakhir sampai kapan? Kita tidak ada yang tahu. We don't even know when the hard market will be stopped. Karena memang posisi saat ini kita masih di sini. Nah, kalau kita lihat mungkin beberapa tahun lalu ada yang namanya soft market, di mana competition increases, prices drop, lalu juga ada new insurers enter the market, maka ada soft market. Jadi ini cycle dari soft market dan hard market. Jika nanti hard market dan profit sudah return, so if all of these players they have found the profit return, the prices will fall. Dan siklusnya akan kembali lagi kepada soft market. So what is actually and what happens in hard market? Several aspects implicate to what we call market hardening. So basically our market is just like another market where law and supply of demand is playing. The reinsurance hard market is impacted by some of these aspects. Jadi ini aspek-aspek yang mempengaruhi apa itu hard market yang kita semua saat ini sedang rasakan. The company combined ratio, which is much implicated by big losses. We found some big losses in 2022, for example, in 2021 and previously. This will lead to, of course, will lead the players to strengthen their policy. Jadi dengan adanya kerugian atau klaim-klaim besar yang terjadi, tentu ini juga jadi salah satu membuat pemain reasuransi, baik di lokal maupun juga di regional dan global market, tentu akan mengetatkan akseptasi mereka. Lalu adanya COVID claims. And there comes COVID claims. These COVID claims is especially impacted to the credit insurance and health insurance. Jadi COVID claims ini yang kita lihat ini juga sangat memiliki efek ke asuransi kesehatan dan juga asuransi kredit. And of course the expenses that is being borne by the company. Dan tentu saja juga expense yang mereka keluarkan. The second part is natural catastrophic losses. There is Hurricane Ian, European floods, Malaysian floods, and then Indonesian floods, Jabodetabek flood in 2022. These natural catastrophic losses especially impacted to the price increase. Jadi kerugian atau klaim-klaim besar karena natural catastrophe ini sangat memiliki pengaruh di dalam mengapa harga itu bisa naik. The third part is economic slowdowns. Because the economic slowdowns bring every player, bring everyone in the market to get more, like hold themselves to what they usually been doing. Jadi semuanya juga menahan diri di dalam situasi ekonomi yang juga sedang slow down. Tentu ini adalah hal yang reasonable buat kita semua, bahwa di situasi ekonomi yang slow down, everyone will get wait and see, and they will try as much as they can to see the situation before they will decide on something. Jadi untuk semuanya, tentu ini adalah hal yang sangat reasonable untuk semua player, situasinya wait and see sebelum memutuskan sesuatu. Ini juga berlaku di pasar asuransi dan juga pasar reasuransi. Tentu kalau di tingkat seeding teman-teman semua mungkin akan masuk ke bisnis baru, tapi karena situasi ekonomi slowdown, akhirnya menahan diri dulu. Nah, akhirnya yang tadinya cover mungkin akan bisa dilempar ke pasar, cover tersebut akhirnya masih ditahan. So there was one of the example when players would like to provide capacities, but they hold themselves, and thus the coverage is not yet being released to the market. Selanjutnya adalah adanya situasi geopolitical. The next one is geopolitical situation. As we can see, there is Ukraine-Russian conflict that was started in 2022 and is still going on. This geopolitical situation brings impact to everything. The first thing is the energy prices. There is energy crisis, energy prices hike, foods prices hikes, and also implicating to our market where the supply of goods and services are being held and also much impacted by this conflict. Karena misalnya ada konflik di Ukraina, ini juga yang mendorong adanya krisis energi dan juga krisis pangan. Harga energi dan pangan naik, yang ini membuat expenses dan juga mendorong adanya inflasi di beberapa negara. Jadi situasi pasar kita juga sangat terpengaruh terhadap konflik yang terjadi dan juga situasi geopolitikal yang ada. Of course, the reinsurance and insurance industries will see any changes in geopolitical situation, and they will hold themselves to decide something and seeing where this situation will lead to. Jadi situasinya akan kemana? Tentu pemain-pemain yang terlibat di sini pasti harus juga akan memantau situasinya. And then next is interest rate hike. With the interest rate hikes, the players, those who have capital, will choose the capital to be invested in the market where interest rates give them much more profitable return. Instead of putting the capital into the insurance and reinsurance markets, those who have capital will choose to put their money, their funds, to being invested in the capital market, and they will hope for the interest rate and bigger return. Jadi dengan adanya kenaikan suku bunga, misalnya yang terjadi di Amerika, pemilik modal tentu akan lebih suka untuk menanamkan modalnya di, let's say, di capital market, dan mereka berharap untuk mendapatkan return yang lebih besar dibanding capital mereka gunakan untuk menahan risiko. Nah, ini jadi salah satu hal yang membuat reinsurance market ini juga mengalami apa itu hard market. And because the capital is being diverted to other areas, thus the capacity is shrinking. Karena capitalnya tadi juga dibelokkan ke area lain, diinvestasikan di bidang yang lain, maka kita juga melihat adanya penurunan kapasitas atau capacity shrinking. This capacity shrinking is also supported by some players that are being that they withdrew their participation in certain markets. For example, there are players that are no longer participate in Indonesian markets and even in Southeast Asia markets. Jadi memang ada perusahaan-perusahaan reasuransi yang bahkan sudah tidak lagi menutup risiko di Indonesia misalnya, dan bahkan juga menarik diri dari market Asia Tenggara. This will lead to capacity shrinking. And of course, at the end of the day, law of supply and demand will play. Dan akhirnya yang terjadi di sini adalah hukum permintaan penawaran yang akan bermain. Karena hal-hal yang tadi yang membuat capacity shrinking, sementara demand masih ada, tentu akan mendorong harga yang juga naik. So this is the national market situation. This is the national treaty performance. Indonesian market national treaty performance saw negative net balances, and this leads to market correction. Some major aspects of negative net balances are mainly credit insurance, health, marine, and other line of businesses. For the last 10 years, actually, the reinsurers only found 2 years of positive net balances. We show you the last 5 years, and even in 2021, this year, the 2021 underwriting years, is not mature yet. Di dalam 10 tahun terakhir, hanya 2 tahun di mana perusahaan reasuransi nasional itu mendapatkan net balance yang positif. Kita show data 5 tahun terakhir, di mana tahun 2017 net balance positif, tahun 2021 terlihat masih positif walaupun kecil, tapi bahkan tahun 2021 datanya masih belum mature. As in underwriting year 2021, we found some big losses. As we all know, we found some big, huge losses in this specific underwriting year. So from that national market situation and hard market, this is our view on the market and our approach. Indonesia Re launched what we call treaty portfolio improvement as major theme in January 2022 renewal. This is part of portfolio improvement, the whole that the company has been undergoing in 2023 business strategic planning. Jadi Indonesia Re berangkat dari data bahwa market dalam 10 tahun terakhir mengalami net balance yang lebih banyak negatifnya dibanding yang positif, lalu adanya hard market di regional dan global market, tentu mendorong kita juga melihat kembali buku kita, apa yang ada di dalam Indonesia Re book, di dalam portofolio kita, dan kita mencanangkan apa yang kita sebut sebagai perbaikan portofolio treaty sebagai bagian dari perbaikan portofolio secara keseluruhan yang kami masukkan di dalam strategic planning bisnis kita untuk tahun 2023. The portfolio improvement is aimed to generate profitable underwriting results for both the students and insurer and to make the program sustainable. Karena kita lihat sebenarnya market kita itu tidak sustainable, gitu. Dan apa yang masuk ke dalam portofolio Indonesia Re juga tidak sustainable, karena kita adalah bagian dari market Indonesia. Apa yang kami temukan, tentu ini yang mendorong kami untuk memperbaiki portofolio kami. Dan kami harapkan kita aim-nya adalah memperbaiki market treaty secara keseluruhan. So we depart from major theme treaty portfolio improvement as the theme setting. And then next is existing portfolio review. We do existing portfolio review, we identify unprofitable programs and business. Jadi kita lakukan tinjauan, kita lakukan review terhadap portfolio existing yang kami punya. Kita lihat di national market bagaimana apa yang terjadi. Kita identify bisnis atau program apa saja yang kami punya dan juga apa yang ada di market. We set improvement targets afterwards, and we set what we call treaty renewal policy. There is part of them is we define areas of concerns. We do student mapping, and we set up treaty renewal policy for January 2022 renewals. Di kami mendefinisikan beberapa areas of concern. Kita juga lakukan student mapping yang nantinya berujung pada kami membuat kebijakan treaty renewal untuk tahun 2023. These areas of concern, this our policy, we do intensive communication to our students. Jadi kami lakukan intensif komunikasi kepada klien-klien kami sebagai bagian dari external communication. As part of our external communication, we communicate our message that we do treaty portfolio improvement. We try to make the business sustainable for both the insurers and ourselves. Jadi kita berupaya untuk membuat program treaty dan bisnis yang kami tutup itu sustainable, baik di sisi kami maupun juga di sisi student. And then afterwards, we come to the treaty renewal process, as this is the action phase. Dan akhirnya kita masuk kepada proses treaty renewal. So here are areas of concern and treaty renewal 2023 policy. In building treaty renewal policy, several steps taken. background identification, identify profitability level, define the areas of concern, cedent mapping, and building special policy for credit insurance. So the first thing first is we found and we identify the unfavorable profitability level in our side and in the market side. Yang pertama, kita identifikasi di sisi kami sendiri, di sisi Indonesia Re, profitability level yang jauh dari yang kami harapkan. As we already shown you the national market situation, the net balance is negative. Profitability level is way below that we are expecting. And then comes, we put ourselves and we set the major theme, which is treaty portfolio improvement. Dan akhirnya kita canangkan tema perbaikan, yaitu tema besar, yaitu perbaikan portofolio treaty. The areas of concern, eventually, kami membuat kami identifikasi beberapa areas of concern. There are 4 issues, and then comes problem identification, and eventually our policy based on areas of concern. Jadi ada isu-isu, lalu juga identifikasi masalah, dan juga policy kami berdasarkan areas of concern. So this is actually part of what our President Director in the opening speech said. We will put this as scientific as much as possible. Jadi kita itu put sangat scientific as much as possible. We move forward to the knowledge-based underwriting. Kita move forward ke knowledge-based underwriting. Jadi kita lakukan identifikasi isu, identifikasi masalah, dan kebijakan kita berdasarkan areas of concern. First thing is treaty balance. In the problem identification, we found out that most of the treaties are unbalanced. The EPI is too small for capacity. Payback period is too long, or too many years to recover from a single big loss. And this mostly found in surplus treaty. Jadi kami menemukan bahwa adanya treaty-treaty atau program treaty yang unbalanced, yang mana EPI-nya sangat kecil untuk kapasitas yang diberikan. Dan ini terjadi bukan hanya di program yang kami lead saja, tapi juga program yang ada di market. Di mana payback period atau return atau pengembalian, jika ada satu klaim besar saja, akan membutuhkan waktu yang lama. Dan ini kami temukan paling banyak di program surplus. So our policy to mitigate this is treaty restructuring, including but not limited to inserting quota share, reducing number of surplus lines, terminate surplus, we switch to quota share only, or even terminate proportional treaty and switch to gross excel. Jadi kebijakan yang kami ambil jika melihat program yang tidak balance ini diantaranya adalah kita membuat quota share, kita mengurangi jumlah line surplus, kita bahkan menghentikan surplus, kita ubah menjadi quota share saja, atau bahkan kita abolish treaty proporsional, kita switch ke gross excel. The next thing is pricing. So most treaties are found underpriced. Non-proportional adjustable rate is too low, or proportional commission rate is too high. Jadi dari segi pricing, kami menemukan bahwa kebanyakan treaty itu underpriced. Untuk treaty non-proporsional, adjustable rate-nya ini sangat rendah, dan di treaty proporsional, commission rate-nya ini sangat tinggi. Our policy is ensuring all relevant rating factors are included, increase of excess of loss price, reduce reinsurance commission and or profit commission and or apply sliding scale commission. We add LPC if necessary and imposing annual aggregate deductible. In terms of pricing, we ourselves as the capacity providers are also impacted by the price hike in regional and global markets, especially from our retrocessionaire. In the local market, I believe not just us, every Indonesian reinsurer are impacted by this hard market pricing from their retrocessionaire. Jadi bukan hanya Indonesia Re, kami yakin bahwa semua reasuradur lokal juga sangat terpengaruh terhadap pricing dari hard market yang terjadi di global maupun regional market. Karena bagaimanapun reasuradur lokal membeli coverage retrocession-nya juga dari market yang ada di luar. In the last 5-10 years, local reinsurers tend to impose price increase quite lower than what actually local reinsurers find themselves get retrocession rates. Di dalam 5-10 tahun belakangan, sebenarnya perusahaan-perusahaan reasuransi Indonesia, reasuradur lokal, menaikkan harga yang sebenarnya masih di bawah harga yang sebenarnya didapatkan dari program retrocession. This price difference were previously borne by local reinsurers, and thus this impacted to the underwriting results of the local reinsurers. Data yang tadi menunjukkan bahwa net balance negatif dikarenakan salah satunya juga perusahaan reasuransi lokal menaikkan harga biasanya di dalam 5-10 tahun tidak tinggi dibanding apa yang didapatkan dari program retrocession.
Waduh.
Excuse me. Yeah. Okay, I will continue with the next aspect is risk concentration and accumulation. So we found there is hidden accumulation from excessive use of coinsurance and fact inward. And then there is layered structure and treaty compression. And this is also supported by non-reporting treaty. Jadi juga adanya konsentrasi risiko atau akumulasi yang besar yang kami temukan sebagai penanggung ulang di dalam program treaty. Hal ini dikarenakan adanya akumulasi yang tersembunyi di dalam treaty, karena treaty itu biasanya non-reporting. Akumulasi ini didapat dari adanya praktek koasuransi di mana jumlah panel asuransi yang ada di dalam koasuransi itu jumlahnya cukup banyak, dan juga sesama perusahaan asuransi ini juga mensesikan risikonya ke perusahaan asuransi yang lain sebagai fact inward. Dan eventually, selanjutnya, risiko tersebut disesikan kembali ke treaty yang kami ikuti maupun juga local reinsurers lain ikuti. Kami juga menemukan bahwa adanya layered structure dan juga treaty compression, di mana teman-teman cedent, Bapak Ibu, mungkin secara tidak sadar berpartisipasi di dalam struktur yang layered, di mana struktur ini biasanya ditutup secara policy limit, tapi sebenarnya policy limit penutupan policy limit tersebut adalah primary layer, dan excess layer dari primary layer tersebut diekspor atau ditutup di market luar negeri. Jadi any losses that happens in the primary layer will hit the treaty first. Jadi semua klaim yang ada di primary layer tentu akan masuk ke treaty terlebih dahulu. Our policy based on this concern is limiting inward and co-insurance. As maybe you all know, in our codes, we limit the inward and co-insurance panel. We also put exclusion for a layered structure. Kami juga lakukan pembatasan exclusion untuk layered structure, penutupan secara excess of loss. Dan juga kami lakukan reporting di dalam treaty yang kita tutup. The last issue is some other issues or others. There is late peak loss reporting, unreported outstanding losses, too wide terms and conditions, and unbalanced timeline. The late big loss reporting. We found out as the local reinsurers, sometimes we get claims report way too late and way too long from the date of loss. And thus, actually, this loss amount is very big. Jadi adanya klaim-klaim besar yang dilaporkan terlambat. Terutama hal ini terjadi jika klaim ini ditutup secara fake inward. So especially in the facultative inward business, because of course these losses, this report will go through from the direct insured and then to the fake inward. The next part is unreported outstanding losses. We found out that the statement of accounts coming from the students, some of them have missing outstanding losses amount. Jadi kami menemukan bahwa beberapa statement of account yang dikirimkan oleh student tidak terdapat nilai claim outstanding. Nah, hal inilah yang juga menekan kami bahwa ada cadangan-cadangan yang belum dilakukan because there is missing figures in this unreported outstanding losses. Too wide terms and conditions is also leads to wider coverage. And the last part is unbalanced timeline. For example, if the timelines in proportional is much bigger than the proportional timeline. So our policy is we put loss notification clause 6 months, and I believe all local reinsurers also impose this kind of loss notification clause. Jadi kami put loss notification clause 6 bulan sejak tanggal kejadian, dan kami yakin teman-teman reasuradur lokal lain juga menerapkan hal yang sama. And then outstanding claims declaration to be put in the statement of accounts. Kami juga meminta klaim-klaim outstanding ditampilkan di dalam statement of account yang dikirimkan. We also do refund terms and conditions. And last thing is our written lines to stand, and we put satisfactory level of sign lines to all programs. Jadi kami menerapkan subjectivity written lines to stand dan satisfactory level untuk semua program. So this is the renewal key drivers, the summary of what we are doing as the reinsurer. The renewal key drivers, we summarize that every company or student is unique, and hence you need the most suitable program that will fulfill your company objectives. And thus we believe that there's no one size fits all. We treat all of these students based on their unique needs and to support their value proposition. Jadi kami percaya bahwa tidak ada one size fits all. Approach kami adalah Indonesia Re melihat dan juga menganalisa serta provide program reasuransi yang nantinya mendukung value proposition dari perusahaan Bapak dan Ibu semua. The reinsurance program structure and terms and conditions is based on past experience, current profile, target profile. That is the portfolio performance. So that is what we are doing the first thing. Jadi kami lakukan pertama adalah portfolio performance dari data yang Bapak Ibu berikan. Kami melihat past experience, current profile, dan juga target profile. And then we see the cedent strategic objectives. Your problems, your goals. Kami melihat objektif atau tujuan dari cedent. Because different problems deserve different solutions. That I say there's no one size fits all. The next thing is reinsurance strategic objective, which is our problems and our goals. Jadi kami juga memiliki tujuan daripada internal kami, yang mana sudah kami sampaikan di dalam areas of concern dan juga policy yang kami lakukan. So our strategic objectives is what I already mentioned in the previous slide. Our areas of concern and our policies to handle these areas of concern. And then the last thing is market cycle. As I already mentioned about the stock market and hard market. Jadi siklus market juga sangat berpengaruh di dalam program yang diberikan. Mulai dari soft market maupun di kondisi yang hard market. So we came to the timeline recap. So this is what we have done, what we do, what's on, and what's next. This timeline recaps all events, our activities, market situation, and post-renewal conditions. Kalau kita lihat, ini adalah recap yang terjadi sepanjang renewal season, baik sebelum pada saat renewal season maupun setelah renewal season. From the pre-renewal, we do quite intensive external communication to client on hard market, our treaty policy, pricing, etc. We started in August 2022. We held Indonesia Re Treaty Forum 2022 that we invited our participating cedents, those who will lead the treaty programs. We invited to the Indonesia Re Treaty Forum. In that event, we communicate our view and our upcoming policy as well as the current situation. And then in September, we held Indonesia Re International Conference. I believe most of you came to our event. We thank you very much for your participation, and we believe our communication in this event is also mirroring what we will do in the renewal season. In October, there is Indonesia Rendezvous 2022 in Bali that we met in the meetings and we met in the discussions. We once again communicate our position and the current market and our policies to the upcoming renewals. The rest of October, we spent our time to do courtesy visits, offsite meetings, etc., with our major cedents. Kita lakukan juga courtesy visit, pertemuan-pertemuan, terutama dengan para cedents yang kami lead treaty-nya. So across all levels, from the board of directors to underwriters, Indonesia Re has delivered bold messages on treaty renewal concerns and policy. Jadi across semua level, mulai dari direksi kami sampai dengan underwriter kami, jika Bapak dan Ibu dan juga tim Bapak dan Ibu semua bertemu dengan kami selalu sampaikan message yang sama mengenai posisi kami di dalam renewal yang akan datang, situasi market, dan juga areas of concern kami. And then we came to the renewal session that is officially started on 1st of November. So this renewal, we already know from the beginning that it will be much more challenging than ever before. And hence, we need additional renewal team. It's a temporary team that is being dedicated to our and strengthen our internal underwriting team. So they come from our management training. So the additional renewal team onboarding was on 1st of November until 3 of November, and then we have internal kickoff of renewal season on 7 of November. And then during the renewal process, there is data review, assessment, and negotiation. Jadi dari awal memang kami sudah meramalkan renewal season kali ini akan lebih challenging dibanding sebelumnya. Karenanya kami juga membutuhkan tenaga tambahan. Kami mendapatkan tenaga tambahan dari manajemen training internal perusahaan kami tempatkan dan untuk memperkuat tim underwriting di dalam divisi kami. Kami lakukan renewal kick-off dan kami lakukan renewal proses sepanjang November sampai dengan 31 Desember 2022. But sometime in early December 2022, we all see that one of our friends, National Re, decided to freeze their treaty renewal acceptance, their participation for January 2023. This created market disturbance. This is something that actually we ourselves didn't imagine and didn't expect before. Suatu waktu di awal Desember 2022, kita semua melihat teman kita National Re memutuskan untuk tidak berpartisipasi di dalam Januari 2023 renewal. Ini yang akhirnya juga membuat gangguan terhadap market Indonesia. Ini yang nantinya juga akan berimbas terhadap treaty placement Bapak Ibu semua. And then we come on the 31st of December, the final day of 2022. Our team still got calls, emails, etc., even up to almost midnight. So even when everyone set up their fireworks, we still got calls and email. Nah, kami bahkan juga masih menerima panggilan telepon, email, dan lain sebagainya, bahkan WhatsApp juga, sampai hampir tengah malam di tanggal 31 Desember. Biasanya, di tanggal tersebut semua sudah finalized, tetapi kami juga masih menerima permintaan untuk ikut serta maupun juga naik share di hari terakhir tersebut. And Indonesia Re finally closed 2022 with treaty renewals, 28 hidden flat and 40 newly led hidden. Kami lead 28 hidden di renewal kemarin, di mana 14 diantaranya merupakan hidden baru yang sebelumnya kami belum lead treaty-nya. And in 1st of January on New Year's Eve, when most of the world celebrate the New Year, some of the students even have yet fully placed their treaty. Kita juga melihat bahkan di tahun baru, di mana orang-orang merayakan tahun baru, kita semua lihat, kami lihat beberapa students bahkan masih belum fully placed treaty-nya. So this is to tell how challenging this 2023 renewal was. And then post-renewal, we still got time up to 15th of January, which is the 3D program report submission deadline to the OJK. we do letter of acknowledgement issuance. We sign the treaty contract, and also we manage the shortfall share that we are asked to increase our previous written line. Jadi sepanjang 1 sampai 15 Januari kami lakukan kami terbitkan LOA, kami lakukan penandatanganan kontrak, dan juga karena masih ada treaty yang shortfall, beberapa dari cedents meminta kami untuk next year kita review, kami review, dan juga jika masih ada room untuk kami partisipasi, maka kami increase share kami. And this is the highlights of the treaty renewal. There is market correction in the renewal due to several main aspects: treaty balance, hard market situation, pricing, and combined ratio. Jadi terdapat market correction di dalam renewal kemarin karena beberapa aspek, terutama karena ada treaty balance, karena aspek treaty balance, hard market situation, pricing, dan juga combined ratio. Most of the unused and less used programs are abolished or restructured into other programs. Kebanyakan dari program-program treaty yang jarang digunakan atau tidak terpakai oleh cedents ini banyak yang diabolish atau direstruktur ke program yang lain. There is also pricing adjustment, which pricing adjustments is inevitable as faced by most of the cedents. Kenaikan penyesuaian pricing juga tidak dapat terelakkan, yang mana dihadapi oleh kebanyakan cedents. Several cedents face their treaties not fully placed by 1st of January 2023. Beberapa cedents bahkan treaty-nya masih belum fully placed pada tanggal 1 Januari 2023, di mana program semestinya sudah berjalan. And local reinsurance presence has significant impact to local market. Jadi kita juga bisa lihat bahwa kehadiran reasuradur lokal memiliki impact yang sangat besar terhadap local market. So what's next? After 2023 January renewal, Indonesia Re prepare some next steps. We manage and review the shortfall treaties, especially for share increase proposal. Kami manage dan juga review treaty-treaty yang masih shortfall, yang mana kami diminta untuk kenaikan share. We prepare for the upcoming renewals in April, July, October, etc., and anticipate and prepare for possibility for treaty new leadership. Kami menyiapkan diri kami untuk upcoming renewal, antisipasi dan menyiapkan kemungkinan adanya new leadership baru di dalam treaty yang akan datang. We maintain the same approach and keep to be the risk consultant to the cedent on building the suitable treaty program. Kami maintain approach kami, kebijakan kami, dan juga defensive action kami. Kami tetap pick and choose terhadap risiko dan juga tetap memposisikan diri kami sebagai konsultan risiko kepada cedent dalam membangun treaty program yang paling cocok untuk kebutuhan klien-klien kami. We monitor the profitability of the treaty programs participation. Selanjutnya kami akan monitor profitabilitas dari partisipasi treaty kami. We strengthen the partnerships with cedents. Kami akan memperkuat partnership dengan cedent-cedent, and eventually we improve the services to the client. Dan selanjutnya kami berupaya dan terus berupaya untuk meningkatkan pelayanan kami kepada klien. So I believe this is my final slide, and I return the session to the moderator. I thank you very much for your attention and participation. Terima kasih banyak untuk Bapak Ibu semua partisipasi dan perhatiannya. Saya kembalikan kepada moderator. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Widyo, for the presentation. So to summarize, we can say that there are several aspects that implicate market hardening, such as market losses, net cat losses, economic slowdowns, geopolitical situations, and capacity shrinking. This hardening also led to market correction in Indonesian market, especially, which is kind of inevitable. Indonesia Re applied policies that focuses to improve its portfolio as well. But unfortunately, we see that due to this overall market hardening situation, it resulting in several cedents failed to fully place their treaty by 1st of January 2023. Okay, I'll leave that there. And once again, thank you, Pak Widyo, for the presentation. And to keep up with the time schedule, now let's move on to our second speaker. And sebelumnya Bapak Ibu mengingatkan kembali jika ada pertanyaan, silahkan dapat disampaikan pada link yang sudah disampaikan di chat box. Now we are going to listen to presentation about treaty renewal in international market from Ibu Surbhi Goel. Ibu Surbhi Goel was appointed as Managing Director, Head of PNC Southeast Asia at Munich Re with effect from 1st of July 2022. Prior to joining Munich Re Singapore in April 2022, Bu Surbhi was Group Head Reinsurance Commercial PNC Underwriting at India's HDFC Ergo, a Munich Re joint venture entity. Bu Surbhi brings with her over 20 years experience in reinsurance, business development, structuring and procurement, broking relationship management, and underwriting of PNC lines of business. Bu Surbhi holds a postgraduate diploma in insurance and risk management from New Delhi's Birla Institute of Management Technology and a Bachelor of Arts in Economics from Miranda House College, University of Delhi. Without further delay, Bu Surbhi, please go ahead.
Thank you, Induri, for having me here. And it's my pleasure today to present on the global trends in treaty reinsurance. Next slide, please, Rennie. Yeah. So let's quickly look at the agenda for today. And, we'll see the 1/1 renewals from a global perspective, the inflation impacts on insurers and reinsurers. And then we'll move on to the industry losses that we've seen in the past and how that impacts the capacity that's available in the market. And then finally, as a community, what are the key trends and takeaways for all of us? Next slide, please, Rennie. Okay, now the 1/1 renewals were perhaps the toughest, that one would have seen in the recent years. Now, overall, there was a clear reinsurance hard market across all lines of business. And, we also heard this, in the previous presentation, that there is clearly a hard market prevailing, on the reinsurance side. Now, let me just quickly take you through the background and the context we are in today. Now, the last 6 years have been very tough for the reinsurance market. There's a combination of challenges that have been at play in driving the current hard market in the reinsurance pricing. Now, the reinsurers have failed to earn their cost of capital in the past 6 months because of the increased nat cat activity. Apart from this, the macroeconomic conditions have not been very favorable too. Now, we are in a very high inflation, high interest rate regime, the Russian-Ukraine war, and the geopolitical tensions in some parts of the world is just adding to the overall complexity. Now, all these factors have actually come together to create a perfect storm. Now, as per Fitch, in one of their reports, they say that 2022 was the third most costliest year of catastrophic insurance market losses. There's also a very compelling need, because of all the reasons that I just spoke of. There's a very compelling need for reinsurers to get back into the positive territory of returns. Now, this has led to steep corrections in pricing, terms, and conditions on 1/1 renewals, and we've all seen this. Right now, two segments stand out, clearly in this market hardening scenario. One is the property cat market, and the other is the retro market, where prices increased almost plus 37% and plus 50% respectively, as you can also see in the graph on the right-hand side. In Asia, particularly, pricing increased by an average plus 15% to plus 20% risk adjusted. This is still muted to what we really saw in some of the other markets globally. Now, globally, in the US and the Europe, they saw plus 30% to plus 50% for loss impacted programs. And this was accompanied by a lot of structural changes in the program. So we saw that proportional surplus programs had quota shares being seeded in for greater treaty balance. Some programs just completely moved to a gross excel. There was application of LPC, the sliding scale commissions came in, the fixed commissions reduced. So there were a lot of changes that happened on the program per se. So essentially, there were a couple of themes, that were dominating the Jan renewals, and notably some of them were inflation. That was the biggest topic, capital, secondary perils, climate change, and the Russia-Ukraine war. So these are essentially the large key themes that were that dominated the 1/1 renewals, and we've all seen, how the 1/1 have panned out for each of our markets. Next slide, please, Rennie. Is that okay? I think we've probably missed one slide before this, Rennie. If you can just go up. Let's just start from the beginning. Yeah, just stay here, please. Just stay here, Rennie. Thanks. So now, moving on, I mean, just in continuation with what we saw on 1/1, another striking feature on the 1/1 renewal was the shrinkage in capacity. Shrinkage in reinsurance capital, now a lot of reinsurers, announced pullback of capacity, so Axis, Sirius, Tokio Marine, Kiln, and then even on the retro side, there were no new entrants, and a lot of the traditional retro players like QBE, Yasport, they exited from large cat scenarios. Many large retro programs could only be finalized at very significantly higher prices, and again, in terms of coverages, they were again limited. Now, if you see the right-hand side chart, one can see a very sharp decline in the reinsurance capacity in 2022. The last time the capacity came down so sharply was after the global financial crisis of 2008. Now, Howden, and this is the source of, this information, they reported that the dedicated reinsurance capital eroded by 15.7% to 355 billion at year-end 2022, and from a high of almost 430 billion in 2021. So this is quite a significant reduction in capacity. And then, and there is a reduction in capacity for a number of reasons. And one major factor is the increased frequency and the severity of the natural disasters like hurricanes and earthquakes, which have resulted in large losses for reinsurance companies. Now, additionally, if you see, as I said, we are in a very, high interest rate scenario. Now, with interest rates on the rise and equity markets declining, the investment portfolios of reinsurers have underperformed, as they have booked very heavy mark-to-market losses, especially if their investments are made in certain investment asset classes like the government bonds and treasury. And actually the government bonds and treasury form a very large part of, the investment book of any reinsurer. Now here where the value of bonds fall, as the interest rate rises. So that has had an impact on the capacity, of reinsurers. Now, also what is interesting to note is that, new capital has also not come into the sector because of the prevailing economic uncertainties and the increased inflation expectation. However, we did see some correction on 1/1, and now with increased risk premiums, adequate pricing, and attractive returns, it is expected that the new capital will start flowing into the market now. Next slide, please. Okay, now this is here we're just going to look at the impact of inflation on the reinsurance industry. Now, as we all know, inflation leads to higher claims cost, which erodes the profitability of both the insurers and the reinsurers. Now, and if there is higher uncertainty, in not knowing when this inflation will peak or how long this will continue, which is really the case now, that causes more volatility in results. Now, the impact of inflation on various aspects, like wages or let's say the medical costs, they cannot be easily estimated. And, with other geopolitical factors like the Russia-Ukraine war or the tensions in the Indo-Pacific area, that also increases uncertainty, which leads to higher deviations from the assumptions, that we take in our models. And hence there is higher volatility in results. So for reinsurers, the impact of inflation remains highly correlated to what measures our cedents take in their markets. Now, there are some tools that are available, some mitigating factors that are available to the insurers. Now, some of them, are like number one, you can the rate adjustment. Insurers can undertake rate adjustments to reflect the rising prices or the repair and the replacement cost. That's one. Insurers can re-examine their reserves, especially on the long tail business. Number three, insurers can also modify their insurance contracts to either shorten the tail and eventually the development risk. The deductibles, sum insureds must also be calibrated to reflect the increased values. Now they can also add an index clauses linking premiums, limits, and deductibles to a inflation-related index, or use average clause in property. Now, the impact of inflation, for a reinsurer can also be seen through various types of treaties, whether it's proportional or non-proportional. Now, the non-proportional treaties are more exposed to inflationary risk, as the inflation impact may hit the reinsurers beyond really what they plan or what is expected in their models. And risk-sharing mechanisms may not protect the reinsurers adequately. Yeah. Next slide, Benny. Yeah. Now, inflation impacts the short tail and the long tail. Now, here we've bifurcated, the businesses, the lines of business into short tail and long tail to essentially show that, the impact on the long tail business is far more pronounced and more dramatic than what you see on the short tail businesses. Now, for short tail businesses like, the fire, engineering, the claims are known and they are estimated relatively accurately in a short period of time. The inflation spike that we have seen has mostly been on prices, and which really impacts mainly the short tail business, like property and engineering. Now, however, when you look at the long tail businesses like the GLs or like the MTPLs, the motor third party liabilities, they have a longer settlement period, going anywhere from 5 to 10 years or even more in some cases in some countries. Now, the increased length of this payout and the uncertainty over future claims, now that poses a great danger in underestimating the claims, and this situation gets very tricky in an inflationary environment. Now, the inflation impact comes with a lag, and it is more closely linked to a wage inflation. Now, over time, social inflation also adds to the complexity. Now, by social inflation, I mean, the impact of increased litigation cost, the changes in social norms, increased medical expenses. Now, they also take hold, of the claims on the long tail side, and they add to the overall inflationary impact. Hence, it's very important that cedents make adjustments to their reserves and inflation assumptions on every line of business, particularly in times like now. Next slide. Okay, now see in proportional treaties, now here essentially, we are going to see how the non-proportional reinsurance or the excess of loss reinsurers get impacted because of inflationary pressures. Now, what happens in proportional treaties? The ceding insurer and the reinsurer, they share the premiums and the losses on a percentage basis, and thus the burden of inflation appears to fall on both parties pretty much proportionately. Now, however, in the non-proportional treaties, the risk-sharing mechanisms may not fully insulate the reinsurers from a very high inflation and persistent inflation scenario. Now, the potential of a negative impact is actually very high in a long tail business. So let's consider an example here. So let us take a low inflation scenario with 2.5% inflation and a high inflation scenario with a 3.5% inflation. Now, in case of a short tail line of business on non-proportional, like let's say property, let us assume that a total claim of 6.5 million, the total loss, the total limit, is incurred, out of which the layer loss for the reinsurer is 1.5 million. Now, when the inflation increases to 3.5%, the layer loss that is incurred by the reinsurer also goes up. Now, that will go up from 1.5 million to about 1.74 million, which is almost a 16% increase. Now, let us, so this is on a short tail scenario. Now, let us take, a long tail scenario assumption, on casualty. Now, here the claim develops over 10 to 11 years with 2.5% baseline inflation per annum to an ultimate amount of 6.5 million with a loss layer of 1.5 million. So this is on a conservative inflation of 2.5. We see a 6.5 million loss amount. Now, however, if the same claim were to accumulate over a period of time at a higher inflation rate of 3.5 that we've taken, this claim amount will escalate to 7.19 million with a loss, with the loss to the reinsurer at 2.19 million. Now, this represents an increase of almost 46% in the loss layer between the two inflation scenarios. So hence, we can see that high inflation scenario has a very high and a very disproportionate burden for reinsurers, particularly on the non-prop treaties. Next slide, please, Rennie. Now, reinsurers, obviously now we saw that, the proportion of, the burden on the reinsurer is very high on the non-proportional treaties. Now, reinsurers use some tools to mitigate this impact of inflation particularly on the long tail business. And one commonly used tool, that you would also have seen in your programs is the index clause, which basically links your premiums limits and deductibles to an inflation-related index. Now, it distributes the effects of inflation on claims cost, which tend to fall on the reinsurer between, again, as I said, between the ceding insurer and the reinsurer. And, and these are particularly useful, where the underlying losses take a very long time to get paid. Particularly, you'll see them more on the MTPL or the casualty XOL programs. Now, the design on index itself is not perfect. And in case of an increased and a persistent inflation in which there are multiple triggers, the index may not accurately capture the nature and the quantum of inflation. And hence, the mechanism of limiting or sharing the inflation impact between the cedents and the insurers may not work as expected, in full trust. So it does not, and hence that's why we say that the index clauses do not completely level out the impact of inflation. Next slide. Okay. Now let's just move to the large NatCat losses that we have seen in the recent times. Now, as per one of the reports by Aon, the global economic losses from the NatCat in 2022 were estimated at $313 billion USD, and the insured losses were pegged at about half of them, about $152 billion. Now, this is the third year when the losses have hit this kind of level. Now, the insured losses, and Hurricane Ian was the last event, that again caused a lot of agony in the reinsurance market. And here, the losses, were estimated. The insured losses were estimated anywhere between $50 billion to about $55 billion, and the economic losses were to the tune of almost $95 billion. Now, Hurricane Ian is supposedly the second most expensive natural disaster that the insurance sector has faced. Now, all this, has the string of losses that the reinsurance industry has seen, has resulted in an exit of capacity from the NatCat space. Now, many reinsurers have exited, and you're aware, many reinsurers came off programs, they pulled back capacity, essentially to take off the volatility, that comes along when you're writing a NatCat business on your books. So many of them came off. And even the reinsurers who deploy capacity opportunistically, and we know some of them who do that, they also traded with a lot of caution. So we also did not see them, very active on the 1/1, this time. Now, retro programs also became expensive. As we saw on the first slide, there was almost a 50+% increase in prices for retro programs, and the risk appetite. The way the reinsurers viewed their risk, and the appetite, it changed for a lot of reinsurers. However, I must say that Munich Re is amongst the very few reinsurers whose appetite remains stable and consistent as before, for all our clients, and we are more than willing to deploy capacity provided it comes at the right price. And this was our message to all our partners during CIRC and before, and every time we met in the market, we've consistently been passing the same message that our appetite remains stable and consistent, and we are there for our partners. Next slide, Rennie, please. Okay, now. Capacity, I mean, we've also talked of, how the capacity has gone down in one of the slides above. We see it came down, the overall capacity has come down to about $355 billion. But the sharpest, gap that we saw in capacity was in the US market. Now, so we see NatCat capacity supply, being impacted because of several reasons. There are really not one, but several, So one, of course, the most important is that the reinsurers have exited because of the continuous losses on the property cat book. Then there is a deteriorating rate of exchange versus the USD. The increased demand due to inflationary impact on portfolio. So there is, an ask for higher sum insured values by clients. There's a very tight retro market, which is prevalent. And all of this, has come together, to sort of put pressure on capacity. And as you can see in the slide, the US was the hardest hit with almost $35 billion gap in capacity requirement. Next slide, please, Roman. Okay. Now, so the hardening that we've talked about in so much of detail, now we've seen we've seen that in 2022. Now that is a result of the past few years of past about 6 years of underperformance, I'd say. Specifically, the increased frequency and severity of large NatCat events, has been there. There has been no fresh flow of capital. Now, if you look at the second graph, you can see that the return on equity, has been in a negative territory. It's, the reinsurers have been in the red for quite some time. The reinsurance sector has not earned its cost of capital for the last 6 years, and the current inflation trend will now further increase this cost of capital. So, and hence the return on equity of the reinsurers need to catch up to bridge this yawning gap between the two. So there is a clear gap between the return on equity and the cost of capital, and both of them have to at some point catch up with each other. Next slide. Okay. So finally, what are the key trends and what are the key takeaways, for us as a community? What are the trends that we need to really watch out for in 2023? And some macroeconomic events like the potential recession, continuous supply chain disruptions, ESG, cyber, energy crisis because of the Russia-Ukraine war, all of this will have a broader implication on the reinsurance in the form of losses, capacity shortages, sanctions, and social inflation. So we aren't really in a very happy situation at this point, but yes, I mean, it's good that we should be conscious of some of the impacts, broader impacts that will take place in our market. Next slide. So finally, what are the key takeaways for for all of us as a community? Now, one important point that and I'd like to make is that reinsurance works on the principle of diversification. It's the same pool of capital which is at work across markets, and if an event in any market makes an outsized impact on the profitability of the pool, pool of capital that we have, then the impact will show up in each of the markets. Now, this impact, may vary region by region, product by product, market by market, but there will be an impact across globally, and hence we have seen corrections across the globe on 1/1. Another key takeaway is that, and this is something Pak Widyo also mentioned, that reinsurers will deploy capacity where the returns are highest, right? So our assessment is that the market hardening will continue for at least 2 years or if more, and we don't unfortunately have a crystal ball to say when this will get over. But yes, we have to prepare for a scenario where the market hardening continues, and it's very, very imperative that insurers improve their underlying portfolio and reprice their policies for higher expenses and claim costs arising out of inflation. So this is very critical, to do on the direct side. Finally, the key takeaway, I think, for you is that Munich Re stands committed to continue support the market, but at the right price. So this is all from my side, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Bu Surbhi, for the enlightening presentation. It is interesting, though, even though it is expected to see what happened in the international market is very similar to what happened in the Indonesian market, of course. And I believe 2023 is a historical year as global insurance and reinsurance price indexes seeing its biggest gain in a decade, along with changes in program structure and coverage restrictions. This year, 2023, also considered as the year of capital decline, with biggest capital shrink since 2008. And also, I'd like to note that market hardening is very likely to continue as global economic disruption will still rise. And to effectively counter this, the only way is that we need to adjust the primary market price and take steps to improve the underlying portfolio. Once again, thank you, Bu Surbhi, for the presentation. Mengingatkan kembali kepada Bapak Ibu, apabila ada pertanyaan, dapat di-submit di link Google Form yang ada di chat box. Nanti sesi tanya jawab dan diskusi akan kita lakukan di akhir. So, ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, we will have our last speaker, Ibu Aisyah Fuad. Ibu Aisyah is a senior client manager and team lead for the Indonesia and India sub P&C client markets team at Swiss Re since 1st of October 2020. She joined Swiss Re in August 2011 in their graduate programs, and since then, she had various roles in Kuala Lumpur and Singapore, responsible for client management, treaty underwriting, and structure. In 2018, she moved to her current role to risk management function as operational risk lead for Aisyah before moving back to the first line in her current role. Ibu Aisyah has been an active member of Women in Reinsurance or WIRE since 2019, starting first as a deputy member before becoming a full member of the executive committee shortly after. Ibu Aisyah will give us a glimpse on economic outlook as well as its risks and opportunities that might come in the future. So please welcome Ibu Aisyah.
Hello, good morning, and selamat pagi semua. Can I please check that you can see the screen as well as you can hear me?
Yes, it's clear, Ibu Aisyah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. So all, thank you very much to Indonesia Re, Pak Benny, Pak Dalil, and team for inviting me to share on behalf of Swiss Re on what we think are risks and opportunities that we collectively can manage and tap into in the next few years. The reason I chose this topic was I knew that before this, there were two speakers before me, which will really go into the details of the treaty renewals, treaty terms and conditions, and therefore I think maybe less value for me to repeat that. Overall, I think I would very much agree with Pak Widyo and also Surbhi around what the changes were, what needs to be managed for future renewals, and I do think that the hard market will persist into the next few renewals. So for my presentation specifically, let's take a step back and take a wider perspective or a midterm perspective on what the general reinsurance industry should look out for in terms of risks and opportunities. And I hope that I can also make it much more relevant for Indonesia, which is the country that we all serve in our various capacities. There is also a QR code on the screen. I'm hoping to hear also from the audience because you are all insurers based in Indonesia or reinsurers based in Indonesia, and you really know the business there. And I'm really keen to hear your thoughts. So if you have your mobile phone with you and you can scan that QR code, alternatively, there is a website called slido.com. Go on there, and when prompted, do include the code IR, which stands for Indonesia Re, 0123, which is January 2023. Now, let's get that ready. I'm not going to open the poll yet, but if you have that on hand, that's really useful for our next discussion. Now, I think looking ahead into what we should be mindful of, I think we need to anchor ourselves to the core purpose of our industry as insurers and reinsurers. And I really like this picture here that I found, which reminds us a little bit about who our audience or who our customers are and what is our purpose and which segments of society we serve. So we see here a young boy and presumably his grandmother chatting over a very new piece of technology, right? And if we can draw parallels to what we are doing in the reinsurance industry, I think we're always looking ahead to anticipate new risks that are coming up. And being able to anticipate this is not enough. We also try and price these risks in order to support the broader economy. So we predict and price risks, and we are also partner to country, to the various industries, and ultimately to society in terms of risk mitigation solutions. So if all of you agree that that is our core purpose, and if not all, then hopefully many of you, then I think we can use this as an anchor to take into the next few slides, right? The discussions around what is our role in anticipating risks, how do we price them, and what also are the opportunities. So it is a very difficult market that we are operating in. However, it is not all downside, right? Let's try and see what else we can do together. So what happened over the January treaty renewals, I would say, is a reset, an opportunity for us to reprice the risk and for reinsurers to also now say that, hey, we are not sustainable enough. We need something more in order for us to continue to support the risks that are coming through from our clients and their clients. And looking ahead, this is even more pertinent because, as mentioned before by Surbhi and also by Widyo, we are headed into an environment where we are faced with lots of economic uncertainty, and there is an ever-changing risk landscape. And when there is times of flux, it creates both risks but also opportunities for our industry. I think how we manage to tie through that relies not only on our individual actions as companies, but also how we can effectively collaborate as an industry. Okay. So first poll, let me try and see if anyone's interested to share their thoughts. Could you please scan the QR code or go to slido.com and input the code IR0123. And I'm going to open a poll right now, which asks, according to you, from your perspective, what are top risks that you anticipate for your business or for our industry? I'll let the poll run and see how many responses that I will get. And I will not share the results on the screen, but I will verbally share them with you. I've got one vote. Got recession, inflation, earthquakes, climate change, electric vehicles. Yeah, I'm actually happy these are coming through. So please continue to share them with us, because I think it's good to take a pulse, right? And from your perspective, what are the big risks? I'm happy to see the responses because I feel that based on the research and our view of what's happening in the market, our views are pretty aligned. So let's look at, according to me or to Swiss Re, what do we think for Indonesia we should look out for in terms of risks? I think looking ahead, we need to definitely consider the economic environment that we are operating in. Surbhi has talked about inflation and what that does to claims and also expected returns. And I think on the upside, this could potentially boost investment results in terms of the interest rate hike that is being done by central banks to combat inflation. So on one hand, you could boost investment results, but on the flip side, it increases financial vulnerabilities that are already inherent in the system with the unwinding of the monetary policies that have come through for many, many years of quantitative easing, right? So it's both a blessing or a relief, but also it could be uncovering some vulnerabilities in our industry. Secondly, we cannot discount how important it is to ensure we're on top of what climate change means for our industry in terms of natural catastrophe claims. We see an increasing frequency and intensity of these perils globally. I think the most recent one would be the atmospheric storms in California. I think the estimated losses, insured losses, are around 1 billion estimated. And we've seen many of that in Australia. We see it everywhere in the world. Some anticipated, some not. So I think we cannot discount the fact that it might also happen, right, in Indonesia. Of course, we don't want it to, but we must be ready for it. And then lastly, in spite of all the uncertainties, there's also technological advancement, new economic priorities in terms of the green transition that give birth to new risk pools that we as an industry, that's really our core competency, right? To understand what these new risks are, how they behave, and how can we provide protection solutions in order to make economy and society more resilient. Okay, let me pause here. So I've got a lot of responses from the first question. Now I'm going to open up a second poll. And if we move away from risk and look at opportunities, what do you think are the opportunities for your business in terms of growth, but also in terms of becoming more profitable? I'd appreciate to hear from you. Now I'll let that run as you put in your responses. So if you're still on Slido, the poll is on Slido. As that is going through, I think it's worth mentioning that for Indonesia in 2025, you will transition into IFRS 17, and that in itself is a big task for insurers and reinsurers. And I think what we can do here is really share the knowledge around possible implementations. Now let's look at the economic environment first as the first kind of risk factor, right? So with inflation riding high last year, and then the reaction from central banks to increase interest rates to combat that, I think looking ahead, what Swiss Re Institute expects is that 2023 is going to be a year where there's inflationary recession type of environment, and that dampens economic activity, but it also then means it dampens insurance growth, right? So that's one aspect to be mindful of. Second aspect that is very pertinent for us is that inflation is sticky, and cost component inflation, specifically in general insurance, is going to put a lot more pressure on our industry's profitability. Now we are playing catch up, right, as reinsurers, but it's going to add more pressure on profitability. So how do we consider that big inflation word in all our decision making? Finally, the interest rate hike also unwind some of the monetary policy decisions that have been put through in the past couple of years, and this actually threatens those entities, also individuals who are maybe over leveraged, and then it adds stress to the financial system and threatens financial stability. So in terms of this inflationary recessionary environment, what can you expect? So in terms of projections, we expect the world real GDP growth to be 1.7% this year. And this is also accompanied by 2.6 to 6.2% inflation. So depending on which area, it varies. And then if you look at how Indonesia is expected to do, as a contrast to the global world real GDP, it's actually not a very different picture. So I've got the numbers on the right from the Bank Indonesia annual meeting that happened late last year. And the projection is 4.7 to 5.5% nominal GDP growth with the inflation target to bring it down to around 3 plus minus 1%. So if you take the net impact of that, the real GDP growth is actually only slightly above what we would expect from the world real GDP growth. So we are going to see growth in itself being tempered, and this might pressure on revenues, right? And we see also claims impact of inflation, then overall that profitability becomes even more under stress, I feel. Let's look at the claim side of things. We already know that inflation impacts profitability, but specifically for Indonesia, what does that mean? I think Indonesia is self-reliant on lots of materials, like raw materials, but I guess in terms of parts, specialized parts that are very pertinent in machines and in the industrial type of occupancies, this is where you might have to import. And this is where you see that inflation in terms of transportation costs, but also the product itself spiking. And we also expect that labor costs continue to be high in 2023. So the combination of these two will definitely add to the insurance claims costs that we will see, specifically for those large risks. And if we look at the slew of claims that have come through in the past year, they were more and they were bigger. And this is the claims that we see as reinsurers in the property line of business. And then we looked into that and try to understand what's really happening. So on the frequency piece, I guess it's still our hypothesis. It feels that it's the uptick in economic activity after the pandemic that may have contributed to more errors, more things getting spoiled, and that could be due to a lack of risk management or servicing from our insured. This is just our hypothesis. It's hard to make that correlation, but it's what we see. Subsequently, there was also a shift from clients, so your clients, buying more business interruption cover. And we see this not only in Indonesia, but also in different regions around Southeast Asia and Asia. And the shift here is attributed to higher risk awareness from clients, where during the pandemic, there was supply chain disruption and people felt that they had to be protected against their businesses being delayed to be up on track because of difficulty getting parts or getting repairs done. So we saw a shift in the demand for BI cover. We also saw an increase in the values of business interruption. And then in those claims that have happened in Indonesia, we saw that actually the material damage claims were probably similar to pre-pandemic, but a big part of the claims were actually business interruption losses. So let's put it out there. That's what we observe, that's the risk. Then go on to the third piece, and then we'll talk about what we can collectively do. So the third kind of risk that we should be mindful of is what does sustained interest rate hikes because of sustained inflation do to financial markets or to the business environment, right? And we see that there is a risk of those who are over leveraged to face stress if this is prolonged. And we will see that sustainability and financial stability as an increasing topic of discussion. Now, according to our economists, how does one tide through all these economic uncertainties and environment? So we see that insurers with a strong capital and risk management plan is essential in mitigating this risk. And this is over and above the basics, right? Which is underwriting rigor, portfolio steering, the optimized use of reinsurance. Now on the investment side, how do you allocate your assets, hedge your investment risk? So what does that mean for actions for us that we can think of doing together? So the point I put down on the left, the one in blue, actually it's applicable to both reinsurers, but also insurers. Moving forward in treaty discussions, fact discussions, you will see a strong focus on forward-looking and profitable underwriting. And specifically for reinsurers, we want to see that this is undertaken by our clients on a gross basis, that they look at the performance of the risk that they undertake on a gross basis and not purely on a net basis. And how do we measure profitability? It's not only by loss ratios, but we really look at the combined ratio aspect, because ultimately what matters is the final margin and what that means in terms of return on equity or return on capital for us. So the basics are, from a loss ratio side, we will look on the primary side, the adequacy of the rate, and we will also look at the adequacy of the deductibles to make sure that there is an alignment of interest between us and our client. That's from a 3D perspective, but you can copy and paste this as well to your clients, right? And I think if the expectation from your reinsurers is to have that alignment of interest between us, you can also start to think about what does that mean in terms of the conversations you have with the clients, with the insurers. Apart from pricing, at Swiss Re, we also place a lot of emphasis on getting that policy wording right, that is actually reflects the underwriting and underwriter's intent. So we want to make sure that the wording really ring fences the risk that we said we want to undertake as an underwriter. Anything else, that leads me to the third point, is considered a widening of coverage and definitely has to be priced in some way. So these three factors, the first three ones, help us manage our losses, help manage claims. But equally important, and I think it's a feature of the Indonesian industry, well, maybe not unique to you, but it drives the overall results. Let's look at also at how we can have a conversation around acquisition costs and what's sustainable, because loss ratios can be maybe, I think, based on the latest OJK report, property line of business overall was 45 or high 40%. And then depending on what the true acquisition costs are, we could see a margin of, let's say, less than 10%. And is a margin of less than 10% enough for your investors and stakeholders in an environment where you have risk-free at 3, 4, 5%? So I think acquisition costs are important. I do not have a solution for this, but I think it's worth discussing and reflecting on what is sustainable. And then I think the last point is really back to basics. How do we ensure at the point of onboarding the risk from the insured that they also have skin in the game, they have implemented right risk management measures, right? So I think this is all basics, nothing new. Let me move on to the point on the right. So what can we do as an industry, Swiss Re, Munich Re, Indonesia Re clients, right? I think forums such as this increase insights from each other around what matters in the risk environment. We could talk about trends in claims. We could talk about what we see as wordings that we see in the market. I think we need a lot more such insights exchange. And as a foreign reinsurer, I may be a step away, but I hope that you have those discussions as well, given the strong partners that you have, like Indonesia Re, and also the active AAUI. The second point I like to suggest is, how do you steer your portfolio, right? So I think the individual actions on the left is perhaps risk by risk, treaty by treaty. But as an insurer, you write many risks and you want to be able to steer them in a very efficient way. I think there is an increasing advent of using advanced analytics that's deployed on the rich amount of data that insurers possess in order to help them make fast decisions and spot trends very quickly in terms of where the loss drivers are, where does the profitability lie. It exists. However, it needs to be in tandem with clients who have that data discipline, who have thought about how they want to organize data and treat it as an asset and provide good data governance around this. And at the same time, digitalize it as well, make it in a digital format such that the advanced analytics can layer upon the very good foundation and basic infrastructure that you've built. So for clients who have not started on this journey towards digitalization and thinking about how you can use your data much more, I think it's worth a conversation. And I'm sure Indonesia has ideas about that, but also come and talk to the global reinsurers where, other markets would have probably started this journey earlier, and we have some experience and solutions to share. So that's on the underwriting piece, to make sure underwriting profitability is maintained. what happens then when claims come through? And this is very pertinent for our market in Indonesia. We need to be able to compete, but when it comes to claims, large claims where many parties are involved, how can we notify each other in a timely manner? How can you as a client involve your reinsurer in a timely manner and jointly cooperate in managing this claim? It has happened and it's in everyone's interest to make sure that it's managed well. And this is very crucial to manage claims costs. I think we have an avenue also to share, look back at the claims that have happened and share our findings, provided we have the right forum to do so. And we're really happy to do that. I think this is really an area where cooperation is very beneficial. Now back to inflation and that financial instability that might arise through prolonged interest rate hikes. I think moving forward as an insurer, you really need to consider very carefully those lines of business that are most exposed to these inflation and credit risk, right? Just basic principles of ensuring that your client and you have aligned interests, that they retain enough so that they're skin in the game, and a disciplined embedding of forward-looking inflation into your pricing, and overall then focus still on healthy margins, because these inflation topics, these economic uncertainties, has a volatility in there. So thin margins might not be enough if some of these become worse than expected. And here I'm just sharing a snapshot of a report that Swiss Re Institute has published around how different lines of business in non-life and life are impacted by inflation. And then the last point below, what can we explore together? So for reinsurers, we try and take away risk from our clients. The risk can exist in forward-looking business, which is what we discuss every treaty renewal. But there's also an in-force book, right? And if you as an insurer look at your in-force portfolio and see areas where it's suboptimal and wish to actually seed that away in order to free up your capital for other, value-adding activities, there is a market for that. Broadly, I call it capital solutions. Some call it loss portfolio transfers or ADCs. But essentially what it does is to look at your in-force portfolio, areas where you don't want it anymore on your books. And then, of course, it has to be married with the reinsurance risk appetite, and then see what can be done in terms of capital solutions. And that, I guess, is an option instead of raising fresh funds, right, to boost your capital. So I leave that here as a thought, and happy to hear any feedback on whether that's something that the industry might consider or need at this point. So that's everything around economy. Let's look at a very topical topic, which is climate change, and climate change specifically impacting frequency and severity of secondary perils. Now, in the graph here, there are no numbers, but you can see clearly an upward trend in terms of the number of natural catastrophe events that we've seen since 1970. And out of these events are also the flood losses. To give you a view of how flood losses have trended, between 2011 and 2020, the losses were $80 billion, and that's double that of what we saw in 2001 to 2010. And then if you go into the third decade, the most recent decade, 2021, on its own, insured flood losses stood at USD 20 billion. So that's more than double of the 2011 to 2020 amount if that trend persists, right? So I think it's undeniable that secondary perils, some of it attributable to climate change, are going to increase in terms of frequency and severity. And I think we can't say that Indonesia will be insulated for that. So what can we do to be ready for this, right? So We did a periodic review. So Swiss Re did a periodic review of flood risks. We chose Jakarta specifically given the historical events that have happened there. And in our review, I guess I'm not able to share what the review is very specifically, but we saw a need and a benefit of collective industry action to record and share information. What kind of information? Vulnerability and exposure information. And these additional points of data actually help us all understand flood risk better and is able to model flood risks better. So I'll zoom in on the 4-box model when it comes to natural catastrophe modeling. So first you have the hazard. So here we primarily look at rainfall intensity, but we also look at trends in terms of tide movements that can impact flood risk and inundation. So generally the trend is that there's increasing rainfall intensity, yes, in Jakarta. Then we look at vulnerability. So vulnerability is how does that risk respond to the hazard? And here we find that there's very limited information to be able to enable us to understand this very well. So what are examples of vulnerability information? These are things like if you're insuring a building, how many floors does it cover? Specifically that policy you are covering. Is it on the first floor, the second floor, third floor, fourth floor? Obviously, if you're on third or fourth floor, the probability of you being impacted by a flood event is much less. So if we have that granularity of vulnerability information, I think we can start using that to embed it more in our modeling. And in a way, the clients pay a fairer price and the insurer also pay a fairer price, and the reinsurer is able to understand our accumulations when it comes to nat cat risks. Then we looked also at availability of information to show us how these insured values are distributed across Indonesia. And we all know via the treaty renewal, in terms of submissions, most of us get at the most granular sub-cresta zone information. And flood, because it's so localized, it is not enough to have sub-cresta information. The ideal would be to get that long information for every risk. I think some of the insurers have this, but whether this is able to be shared with the reinsurers, something that we can work with the brokers, for example, will really help us understand where the risks are located and what kind of area it's in, and whether it's then susceptible to flood risks. Lastly, insurance conditions. I think we need to always put a pulse or have a pulse on where deductibles and limits have moved over the years and whether there's equitable sharing of risk between insureds and insurers. Given, is there a question?
Kayaknya masih dengerin itu tuh. Yo.
Mungkin.
Yeah, I think.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no worries. No worries. Okay, so if we look at what's available and what's ideal, and there's a gap, what is the suggested action for all of us? I think as an industry, can we discuss and agree, perhaps in view of this increasing flood risk, not just in Jakarta but everywhere? Can we cooperate to agree on best practice data collection and recording, and prioritize getting precise risk location information and other risk metadata that shed light on vulnerability? So I put two pictures here that illustrate two different Jakarta flood events. On the left, 2007, you can see the blue area is where the flooded zones were. And on the right is the 2020 Jakarta flood event, pretty recent, where the blue areas are actually outside of the main economic regions, and that is why it explains, and that's why the event in 2007 was higher in terms of insured loss versus 2020. So I think this picture just drives home the point that flood is localized. It is very important that we get that granular risk information, and I think one entity or one reinsurer's action is not enough. We need this to be a joint action. So I hope we can consider this as further discussions beyond today. Yeah, so the 2020 event is actually higher rainfall, much higher rainfall versus 2007. But because the rainfall was elsewhere, the insured loss was much less. Finally, we've talked about risks in terms of the economy, in terms of climate. Where are the opportunities, right? Can't all be, all doom and gloom. I feel that there is a lot of optimism when it comes to Indonesia because of its demographics, its economy. I think it's well placed to tap into these new risk pools. Particularly, I think the opportunity lies in green investment in two ways: the decarbonization of transport, so the move towards electric vehicles, and I guess a bit later into the future, as energy transition becomes more prominent, that move from fossil fuels to renewable energy, there is a lot of opportunity and also economic will from the government to tide through that transition. And then lastly, of course, we cannot ignore, and Indonesia is already on this journey, that it's becoming more digital, it's becoming more connected. That comes with both risks and also a bit of reflection, right, on how we as an industry can embed ourselves into this new way of doing business. So this desired outcome, I guess, is not just growth per se in absolute terms, but that in supporting all these up and coming risk pools, we are also increasing insurance penetration. I think insurance, non-life insurance penetration as a percentage of GDP in Indonesia is about 0.5%. So you can see that that's actually on the lower side, and there's really an opportunity for us as an industry to provide protection, to distribute it such that it reaches more people. Now let's look at a little bit around the first risk, the electric vehicles. I think the Indonesian ambition is that I think it's first the electric bikes that are up and coming. I think by 2024, the number that was given was 1.2 million electric bikes on the road, 35,000 electric cars. So that's just 2 years away, right? So if 2 years away, these deluge of electric vehicles are coming into the market, how are we positioned in order to be able to ride these risks? And we all know that motor is the largest line of business in non-life with the best margins. How do we start to think about how we can write these risks without impacting these nice margins that you have in your motor book? And then by 2025, that's just 1 year after, the ambition is that 20% of all vehicle sales will be electric. And this is in line with the green economy development ambitions of Indonesia. So knowing this as an upcoming risk pool that's coming up, I think when I talk to clients, everyone knows this is coming. The question is, how do we work together in order to be able to write this risk sustainably, right? We don't want a repeat of unprofitable lines of business. We don't want a repeat of any capital strain. So I think here, let's think about how insurers can start collecting good information when they start writing this risk. How do we share that among the industry? What is the role of, say, a local reinsurer like Indonesia Re in supporting this risk? And what could a global reinsurer with perhaps some experience from the other markets that are earlier in this journey, what can we transfer in terms of knowledge in order to support this transition to electric vehicles? I mentioned also this move, the green economy. I think first is electric vehicles, but slowly but surely there's also ambition around moving Indonesia's dependence on fossil fuels toward the more varied energy source, and that also includes renewable energy. So the ambition here is, of course, to honor Indonesia's commitments in the Paris Climate Agreement, but it's also a matter of risk management, right? As we saw, energy dependence is something that is very of national interest. Therefore, diversifying energy sources is really critical. So there are two ways that our industry can be involved here. First, of course, using our risk knowledge to ensure renewable energy infrastructure. And I put three icons in the middle that reflect the three biggest renewable energy sources currently present in Indonesia. So that's hydropower, solar, there's also geothermal, but also wind. Then we can also think about insurers' role using the money that they have to actually accelerate technologies in this sector by investing in them. So investing in technologies that increase energy efficiency, that enables efficient storage of the power that's being produced, and then distribution technologies, and also carbon capture, right? So you attack it from both sides. And I think the longer term impact is that you're actually accelerating the sustainability of climate goals, or accelerating the achievement of climate goals. And as we can see, climate change actually impacts catastrophe risk, right? So hopefully there's this whole cyclical impact of investing in technologies for renewable that ultimately reduces the risk on the liability side for us in terms of natural catastrophe claims. So this is clearly an opportunity, and I would really like to hear from the industry how you plan to be part of this journey. And lastly, digital and connected world. On one hand, being more connected means there's more cyber risk. And to be actually very honest, as an industry, I think cyber risk is still minimally understood. And that's because the nature of the risk is ever changing. So it's very challenging to ensure this. Again, back to the basics. How do we come together and discuss cyber risk for Indonesia, and exchange notes around how we can maybe start to offer products that can support business but also individuals. So that's on the risk side. On the opportunity side, everyone talks about digital economy, digitalization, pandemic means that more people go online. I think key to tapping this segment is designing products that are really valuable, right, to clients. I've seen products that were produced with the digital state in mind, but whether it really serves the ultimate client is the question mark, right? So designing valued products which are easy to buy, and then if there is a claim, also easy to claim. This is easier said than done. I think we all need to understand the market dynamics in order to do this. And all these capabilities, right, across the value chain of how to distribute a product in the digital world may not be available in-house in one insurer or in one reinsurer. So each of us has a part to play, insurtechs have a part to play, brokers as well. So I think here to harness the power of distributing insurance online is really not seated in one person or one entity, but will be critical to have good partnerships. However, in this aspect, I think what's on people's mind is that partnerships may create additional friction and also additional acquisition costs, and how to balance all of that to ensure that the consumer ultimately benefits. So these three areas are what I see as opportunities for us. We can go with and attack them alone, or we can do it collectively as an ecosystem, as mentioned by Pak Benny and Pak Widyo. So I would like to invite all of us to think about how to manage risk, but on the other hand, how do we also move forward and attack these new risk pools, right? So the midterm future brings with it these risks and uncertainties, and there's definitely value in working together to understand and manage them. From Swiss Re's perspective, yes, we are based in Singapore, we are offshore, but actually our heart with Indonesia. We are all excited to see what the opportunities are there, and we would like to also be part of the community that serves insurance to society, right? So thank you very much to Indonesia Re for inviting me and Swiss Re to give our thoughts on this topic. And I hope you can see that there's really a lot of areas where we can all work together instead of only competing. Of course, competition has its value, but I think even more we can unlock the power of our industry by working together to manage these risks. And with that, I'd like to end my presentation and hand it over to the moderator.
Thank you very much, Bu Aisyah, for the presentation. It was really insightful. So it is all revolves around economic, climate change, as well as possible opportunities such as risk pools, new risk pools. Aligned with previous presentations by Pak Widyo, Surbhi, economic uncertainties will still be there and may put pressure, so much pressure on both reinsurers and insurers' profitability. Inflationary is one of the risks to watch out that rising from economic uncertainties. However, there are also several opportunities emerging from the situation with the development of new risk areas. However, relevant risk data are still needed to get a proper future risk modeling. Once again, thank you very much, Bu Aisyah. And ladies and gentlemen, now that all speakers have finished their presentations, we will start the Q&A session. Sebagai informasi, Bapak Ibu, Bapak Delil Khairat juga hadir dan akan ikut dalam sesi diskusi dan ikut menjawab pertanyaan-pertanyaan yang nanti masuk. Di sini kami sudah menerima beberapa pertanyaan yang masuk untuk masing-masing speaker. Namun pertama-tama saya akan memberi kesempatan terlebih dahulu jika ada yang mau bertanya langsung dengan open mic, mungkin bisa menggunakan feature raise hand agar tim kami bisa melihat dan bisa memunculkan Bapak Ibu di depan. Silahkan Bapak Ibu. Kalau tidak ada, di sini kami menerima pertanyaan dari Pak Indra, Asuransi Umum Mega. Mungkin berkenan untuk menanyakan langsung, Pak Indra. Kalau tidak, mungkin bisa kami bacakan. Pertanyaan dari Pak Indra, Asuransi Umum Mega, untuk Pak Widyo, untuk Indonesia Re. Pertama, are there any efforts for insurance stakeholders to address the hardening in the reinsurance market, such as collaboration among companies or changes in regulation? Any mitigation took by Indonesia government? Apakah sudah ada yang dilakukan oleh pemerintah terkait hal ini? Lalu pertanyaan kedua, how can Indonesia insurance companies take advantage of the hardening market to strengthen their position in the market? Apa yang bisa dilakukan perusahaan asuransi untuk mengambil keuntungan dari situasi market hardening yang terjadi saat ini? Mungkin dipersilakan Bapak Widyo atau mungkin Pak Delil untuk merespon pertanyaan tersebut.
Silakan Widyo dulu.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Delil. Good morning, Pak Indra of Asuransi Umum Mega. The first question is, are there any efforts from the government on the mitigation of the hard market? Well, we believe that we haven't seen quite much effort from the maybe from the stakeholders of the government on the hard market. But on the other hand, actually the hard market situation is actually globally happening. So basically, any efforts being taken by the government will be still much be impacted by what happens in the regional and global markets. I'm not sure, is there any something that the government would like to do, especially on the reinsurance hard market, whether they would like to impose any further regulations or something. This is because at the end of the day, the government efforts will be strictly on the regulatory side instead of on the market side. Even if the government, let's say for extreme, they would like to close overseas market to do reinsurance cover in Indonesia, it will further make the local market being hardened, as the capacity will much shrink. But even if the government open the market, overseas markets is hardening anyway. So it's more on the market instead of the hands of the government. The second question is how Indonesian reinsurers take advantage to strengthen the market and to do such maybe some portfolio improvement. Of course, in this kind of situation, well, actually, I could not. I don't want to use terms of taking advantage. Instead, I would like to use. We would like Indonesia Re, and we believe all other Indonesian reinsurers would like to improve the market and the quality of risk instead of just taking advantage. Because at the end of the day, we are part of the ecosystems. We are in the middle of the market that being impacted. We are all being impacted by what happens in global and regional markets anyway. So I believe all of these players in the local markets, including the cedents, will put their much efforts to save their own portfolios. So yeah, so at the end of the day, everyone will do as much as possible what they can do to save the portfolios and aim for the better underwriting results. I believe that will answer. Maybe Pak Deli would like to add. Please feel free, Pak.
Well, thanks, Widyo. I think I concur with your thought actually, Pak Widyo. And just to add on to echo Pak Widyo point of view, Bapak Ibu and colleagues, that I think we need to see the hard market as from more positive angle actually. In fact, that the hard market or the cycle of soft and hard market is basically is a normal market force that works to adjust any imperfection or unbalancedness in our industry. So that it must come because of there's something not so balanced in our industry. For sure, Surbhi already shown in the presentation that basically in last 6 years the industry always failed to meet the underwriting result. So that's very strong signal of the imperfection in our market, right? So with that positive view, I believe we should take of course painful honestly to pay more for the capacity, to see that the coverage getting tightened and narrow, but if we able to really go back to the basics as suggested by the two speakers just now, right? Back to basic, improve our underwriting rigor, and improve our capability in pricing the risk, and of course also improve our capability to engage our customers, to deal with this risk situation, right? And what happened in Indonesia market in last 4 years basically is that we have not properly or adequately passed on the hard market coming from overseas to our local market. And that's why probably most of us feel that the last one renewal is so painful, because it's like we cram all 4 adjustment in one renewal, 4 years adjustment in one renewal, right? So but anyway, going forward, as suggested by Bu Aisyah as well, this is really our best opportunities momentum to really improve our fundamental of industries, right? And engage our clients, our customers, direct insureds, to deal with the risk, because at the end of the day, we are part of the one global risk ecosystem anyway. Despite we work on with our company, we taking care of each of us taking care of our own balance sheet and P&L, but above all, we are members of one single global risk ecosystem. And what's happening in last renewals really confirmed that anything happen overseas, we can't deny, we can't avoid to be passed on in our market also locally. So that's basically my point is let's look at this situation in positive way for the betterment of our industry going forward. Thank you. Back to you, Yudo.
Thank you, Pak Delil and Pak Widyo. Ini poin yang menarik ya. Jadi soft market dan hard market itu hanyalah cycle. It's a normal market force to adjust with unbalanced market situation and market imperfection. And sekarang adalah momentum yang paling baik untuk melakukan adjustment di industri ini. Baik, kita mungkin langsung lanjut ke pertanyaan berikutnya. Di sini kami mendapatkan pertanyaan dari Bapak Fatur Huda dari Victoria Insurance untuk Ibu Surbhi. There's a question from Pak Fatur Huda, Victoria Insurance. Pak Fatur Huda, maybe you would like to ask the question yourself. Okay, so let me read the question. Based on your presentation, Bu Surbhi, it seems that your right price affect Indonesians' rate because our reinsurance need your backup. Did our OJK's pricing team ever invite you in the process of property insurance, earthquake, and flood pricing? Because it seemed that they did not consider your price as provision of adverse diverse and just based on our local burning cost calculation. Please, Mr. B, your response on this.
No, sorry, could you just articulate the question again?
Yeah, sorry, I'll repeat that once again. So based on your presentation, it seems that your right price affect Indonesians' rate because our reinsurer need your backup. Did our OJK pricing team ever invite you in the process of property insurance, earthquake, and flood pricing? Because it seemed that they did not consider your price as provision of adverse diverse and just based on our local burning cost calculation. Please, Ms. Surbhi.
Yeah. So if I understand your question correctly, did OJK? I mean, please, correct my understanding. If is OJK involved in setting the property tariff, right? Is this what your question is?
Yes. Yes.
No. So that's clearly not the case. So OJK is absolutely not not involved or did not consult Munich Re, for the property tariff. I think it is the onus of the insurers really, to come together and reprice the risk. Because you are the people who are on the ground, the insurers are the ones who are on the ground, who know the pulse of the market. We can only send out signals, through the reinsurance pricing, that the pricing on the direct side has to improve, but the action has to come from the insurance community. And yes, there was no consultation, that was done with Munich Re on the property tariff. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Surbhi. Pak Facharuda, you want to respond back? Okay, no, I think we can move on to next question. There is also a question from Pak Facharuda as well to Bu Aisyah. Is it still applicable in the global market that insurer gives certain additional discount when insured apply some risk management, e.g. like firefighting training, regular electricity check? Currently in local market, no more discount applicable for that kind of risk management. Any feedback on this?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I have to wear my underwriting hat provided. Actually, I'm not a facultative underwriter, I'm 3D underwriter. But I would say this way, right? The word of the name, the term discount actually implies there's a base rate, right? Which is reflecting the base level of risk quality. And that could be in the form of a tariff, right? Some clients refer to the tariff as a base. But in markets that are not tariffed, this pricing is actually ground up, right? The insurer has to form a view of what that technical rate is. So I think in terms of principle, if you have a base rate that reflects the average quality of a risk, of a property risk, and that base should have some firefighting capabilities, right? So you need to have an understanding what that base is to decide whether additional risk mitigation activities that are undertaken are actually in line with the base or actually a further improvement in order to provide a discount. Consequently, if there's an absence of risk mitigation efforts, then you need to load as well. So the question is whether that happens in the market outside of Indonesia. Absolutely does. Prudent underwriters do that, right? They have a view of what a base rate is that reflects an average quality of risk, and then they look at the risk that they are going to onboard and they decide to load or discount accordingly, depending on the risk quality. So yes, please keep it up. Not the discount only, but also to load when you feel like that it warrants a loading.
Yeah, agreed with that. Thank you, Bu Aisyah. I think to keep up with the time schedule, apologize that we're just gonna accommodate one more question after this, and this question now is for Indonesia Re again. Akan saya bacakan dalam bahasa Indonesia ya Bapak Ibu. Seperti telah disampaikan bahwa hard market dan shrinking capacity yang telah terjadi tidak dapat dielakkan, dan kita tidak dapat mengetahui sampai kapan hal ini akan berakhir. Usaha nyata apa yang akan dilakukan Indonesia Re sebagai penyedia kapasitas untuk ke depannya? Kenaikan harga dan kenaikan perbaikan portofolio sudah disampaikan telah dilakukan di 2023. Namun apa yang akan dilakukan ke depan? Apakah dengan asumsi hard market yang akan membaik ke depannya, Indonesia Re bisa memberikan TC yang lebih longgar dari sekarang? Dan bagaimana Indonesia Re memastikan setiap exposure yang diaccept oleh Indonesia Re aman bagi seeding company? Demikian pertanyaannya. Silakan Pak Widyo, Pak Delil.
Saya saja yang Widyo ya. Terima kasih pertanyaannya. Thank you for the question. Boleh saya tahu who's the raise the question, Yudo?
Ini anonim, Pak, pertanyaan.
Oh, anonym. Okay.
Anonim.
Right. All right. So thank you. So this question asking what will be the Indonesia stance going forward, right? So Bapak Ibu, colleagues, kawan-kawan sekalian, from Indonesia perspective, is the last one renewal is not everything. Actually, it's basically really the new beginning actually for the next long journey for us, the market, to be more technical, to be more quantitative, and more rigorous in our underwriting and risk management actually, right? So we believe that Indonesia Re alone will not be able to change the entire market. We also have our own limitation, our own problem as well, our own legacy as well. What we can promise to you is that we will do our level best to play our role as the national reinsurers as much as possible, and we will engage you, discuss with you, talk to you on how we can work together, collaborate in improving the market situation, improving our quality of our portfolio at the market level. We will also reach out to our partners, Surbhi, Aisyah, and our other partners as well, to get their help as well, to get their view, insights, perspective, thought on how we move forward, and then dealing with our challenges. So that basically, in general, what we can do actually, Bapak Ibu, because our future is remain uncertain, and we need that uncertainty to stay. Because without uncertainty, then we also all gone, right? The world will not need us, insurance industry, if the uncertainty is no more exists. So let's take this forward together. What we can share in the near future, we will continue this kind of engagement, Bapak Ibu. You'll see more frequent, event, knowledge sharing event like this going forward. In addition to several agenda in the offline agenda also this year, in collaboration with many partners as well, including Swiss Re. And as you can see, to echo Aisyah and Surbhi, message that we need to work together to improve our data, our record, and then how we can increase our capability, extracting more information and insight from those data. We will try to do our level best also to play our part here, and one of them is basically BPPDAN. Actually, as you know, we launched in our last event last year in September. We are going to revitalize our Indonesia Re Institute and BPPDAN. That will be the platform for all of us, the industry, to increase our capability in handling data, putting more data, and then extracting meaningful insight from the data. So we will do our part there. We will collaborate with you. We will discuss with you for any kind of improvement, and please also do your part by keeping a session to BPPDAN as much as possible, so that we have more data. The bigger data we have, the better information that we will gain from that data. And we also do our internal homework, of course, because as both speakers and including Pak Widyo mentioned, that basically most important is that what we do after renewal, right? How can we use the momentum created by 1/1 renewal for the better management in the industry? So basically, we will continue this effort, and you may see, in some of you see that the adjustment also happening in the facultative market at the moment, and again, let's see this positively as adjustment for the betterment of you know, unbalancedness or imperfection in our portfolio. And last but not least, IFRS 17, or in locally known as PSAK 74, will come, you know, sooner than later, actually, right? Okay, to 2025 is the official years that we need to use that system, but next year, less than 1 year now, 2024, we already forced to you know, submit a dual reporting by old and new system. And as we know, IFRS 17 will force us, will push us, you know, to really change a lot of things and improve a lot of things in the way we're doing business, in the way we price our risk, in the way we are managing our reserving, managing our money, and so on and so forth. So we need to stay on our toes now, everyone. So it's not much time left, actually, and let's use this momentum, take as positive, you know, positive bitter pill that we need to swallow for the betterment of our industry, with the help of other partners, with the collaboration that we can do together in the future. So probably that what you call it, my response to that. Probably some of you will find this a bit too high level, but that's what we're going to do. Actually, we need to work together to implement that and do it in a more concrete action plan together. Yudo.
Thank you, Pak Delil. Pak Widyo, you want to add something?
Thank you, Pak Yudo and Pak Delil. I just want to echo Pak Delil. And on my response to the question, what is the real efforts from Indonesia Re? Is it a price increase, just the portfolio improvement? No, I could explain that this is more than just price increase, price adjustments, and portfolio improvement. Because at the end of the day, what we would like to do is to make sure all of our treaty programs that we provide is sustainable. That is the main aim of what we are doing for the time being. Because let's see, if the treaty programs is not sustainable, you will find that the treaties would be difficult to place. Maybe there is shortfall, and even it will be no meaning if the treaty is not renewable. Like everyone doesn't want to renew at the end of the period because the treaty is not sustainable. The loss ratio is hiking because on the terms and conditions that was not quite suitable for the programs. So basically, this is just more than price adjustments and portfolio improvement. This is our aim to improve the risk quality and to ensure the sustainability of the business on our side and of course on your side as well. So I believe that's all from me. Everything's already been taken out by Pak Delil, and his message is very clear. We need better collaborations, and we believe that good collaborations between cedents and us will bring a good impact for all of us. Thank you.
Oke, thank you Pak Widyo. Bapak Ibu sekalian, dikarenakan keterbatasan waktu, mohon maaf sesi Q&A harus kami akhiri. Walaupun sebetulnya belum seluruh pertanyaan yang masuk dapat kami akomodir. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have finally come to the end part of this webinar. Some highlight point that we can take from this webinar is that both international and domestic market are experiencing similar market hardening situation. This makes pricing increase, treaty structuring is inevitable. Economic uncertainties are here, and if a macroeconomic does not change significantly, market hardening will still continue. However, as Pak Delil just said, our industry lives from uncertainty. But there are also opportunities that can be explored. So, ladies and gentlemen, to close this webinar and discussion session, Bapak Delil Khairat, our Managing Director, will make a closing remarks. So please, Pak Delil, your closing remarks.
Thank you, Yudo. Bapak Ibu, as part of our communication toward the 1/1 renewal, actually the last 1/1 renewal, I wrote in one article in our website that we all need to learn from emak-emak. Emak-emak is a housewife actually, right? So in managing the budget, right? When price increase, the staple food price increase, right? Emak-emak, mothers, our wife always find a way to make sure that, you know, more or less equal quality and quantity food available on the table, right? And despite the husband did not increase the budget, right, to buy the food. I mean, that's more or less the situation, right? Where I believe that will involve a lot of innovation and setting or rearrange the priorities by emak-emak actually, to make sure whatever the situation in the market, but the food available for the family. So that's more or less actually that philosophy that we need to learn also actually, right? Once we can't avoid the negative impact from the hard market, from overseas market, I think we need to re-strategize ourselves, revisit our portfolio, and probably change our strategy, right? Just like what emak-emak does or do in achieve the objective still to make sure that food available on the table. So that's lesson for all of us actually, right? So as I said before, Indonesia Re will always try to play our role, maximize our role in this effort to improve our market. You know, with our all limitation, we will engage and invite all of you friends in the market to collaborate with us. If you have some idea or anything to talk, to discuss, or to raise to the industry, let's talk over coffee first, and then we can bring this up to the higher level, right? And to get the attention for the entire industry. We are more than happy to make sure that we can be a platform for such a discussion. And of course, to close this event, first of all, thank you to Surbhi, Aisyah, and Widyo for joining us and sharing your thought and views today. I found it's very insightful what you have presented in last 2-3 hours this morning. And in Indonesia, we have an expression that we found that it's daging semua. We call it that to express that what you put forward in your presentation are all like a meat, you know, nothing unhealthy fats in there. You know, so very insightful, very meaningful. Thank you very much for joining us, making time to join us, Surbhi and Aisyah. Thank you also for the organizing committee, Widyo, Ira, and the rest of the team. You always been fantastic under pressure, but come up with a very good, well-crafted, well-planned event as always. I'm really proud of that. And apologize, we are not able to, to bring Pak Ogi with you this morning because he has unpredicted or sudden other agenda that he needs to attend, so he can't be with us this morning. Hopefully in the next event, next opportunity, we will have him with us. And last but not least, terima kasih kepada semua audiens, Bapak Ibu yang sudah menyempatkan diri untuk menghadiri acara ini. Really appreciate waktu yang Bapak Ibu luangkan untuk hadir di event ini. Mudah-mudahan apa yang kita diskusikan bermanfaat untuk kita semua. And seperti yang saya katakan, we are more than happy to engage in more detail, more specific discussion as a follow-up of this event anytime soon setelah event ini. Mudah-mudahan semua sehat-sehat. Sekali lagi terima kasih untuk yang masih akan merenew treaty-nya 1417. Good luck for all of us. And mudah-mudahan juga menghasilkan outcome yang baik untuk semua pihak, perbaikan bagi industri as a whole also. Atas nama Indonesia Re, once again, thank you very much for everyone involved, and have a nice rest of the day, and enjoy your lunch today. And then thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you.
Salam. Thank you, Pak Delil, for the closing remarks. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank all the speakers for their informative and interesting presentation, and also to all the participants for their active participation in this webinar. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. See you all later. Over to you again, Ibu Dinda.
Terima kasih Pak Yudo, terima kasih Pak Delil Khairat untuk diskusi dan closing speech-nya, and thank you to all speakers, Bapak Widyo Primastowo, Ibu Surbhi Goel, Ibu Aisyah Fuad, and Bapak Aryudo for moderating. And also I would like to say again thank you to all participants for your active participation today, and hopefully this discussion is useful for insurance industry improvement. Terima kasih atas kehadiran dan partisipasi aktif Bapak dan Ibu. Sampai bertemu pada event Indonesia Re dan Indonesia Re Institute selanjutnya. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Selamat siang.
Thank you,
Terima
Surbhi.
kasih, Bapak Ibu.
Aisyah.
Thank you.
Terima kasih semua.